first, direct, we beseech thee, O Lord, our action by thy holy inspirations, and carry them on by thy gracious assistance, that every word and work of ours may always begin from thee, and by thee be happily ended through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All of this plenary meeting today is being filmed for live and for subsequent broadcast via the Roscommon County Council's website. You should be aware that the Council is subject to the Freedom of Information Act 2014 and the Data Protection Act 1988 and Data Protection Amendment Act 2003 and the General Data Protection Regulations 2018. Data collected during this webcast will be retained in accordance with legislation. Therefore, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting. Please ensure that all mobile phones are turned off or put on silent mode. And please ensure that you do not speak until your microphone is turned on, and switch off your microphone when finished speaking. I'd like to just thank the members for joining us remotely here. It was a decision we took with consultation with the Chief Executive and the meetings administrator due to the current Omicron variant of COVID, and we thought it was the wisest thing to do. We have quite a number of items on the agenda today, so hopefully we can move through them and we can get through them fairly quickly, and that you might still have Christmas shopping to do or whatever. So the first, I would like to, any member that has a conflict of interest in any part of this meeting, that is there anyone to disclose it, just raise your hand. And during the meeting also today, if you just raise your hand icon and just take it down when you have finished speaking, so we'll be able to keep a sort of a track on it. First thing on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes to be agreed on. The first is a special meeting on the 16th of the 11th, 21 on the County Development Plan. Councillor Lawrence Fallon proposed.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Marty Mcdermott. Any matters arising? No matters arising, so is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, thank you very much. Second meeting is minutes of the plenary meeting, the 22nd of the 11th, 21. We proposer for that.
Councillor Ward.
Councillor Tony Ward proposed it. Who seconded it?
Councillor Shanahan.
Councillor Kathleen Shanahan seconded. Any matters arising out of that? No, I don't see any hands up or anyone. So is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Next is the minutes of the budget meeting on the 25th of the 11th, 21. Can I have a proposer for that?
Tom Crosby.
Councillor Tom Crosby proposed and seconded by Councillor Marty Mcdermott. Any matters arising?
No.
No matters arising. Okay, so is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Next is management report. That's for noting. So the next one on the agenda then is presentation on digital transformation by Damien Ward. Is Damien there?
Yeah. Here,
okay, thank you.
And I'm delighted to get this opportunity to present the progress of what the digital transformation have been doing in the last couple of years. So if I could share my screen. If you can see my screen now, can you confirm, please?
No,
yeah.
I don't have it. Is anyone else?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Nothing now.
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, you have it, Tony.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't see anything.
No, we
Aye.
have nothing here.
Yeah, I have it on my screen there, top left-hand corner. Damien is there.
Oh no, but he's
Right,
sharing. Yeah, sorry, he's sharing a screen presentation.
All right. No, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Coming
Can
out.
we-
There,
Okay,
yes, coming up
Can
now.
you see it
Yeah.
now, folks? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, is that visible to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
Yes.
So just to start, folks, my name is Damien Ward, acting head of Information Services and Digital Transformation. On the call today, I have with me Unani Quinn, who, as a member of the Digital Transformation team, is responsible for both internal and external communications, which is an important part of this whole digital transformation process. So today's presentation, it'll give you a good insight into the progress made by the team to date since it was established. So just to recap, what is
Sorry, Damien, I've lost you there, Damien. Damien, can you hear me? We seem to have lost you. Can anyone else hear Damien?
No, I
There.
can't hear him.
No.
No, can't
Can't
hear.
No.
Damien?
Here, look, I'm just giving him a call on the mobile to tell him.
Shane? Yeah.
Okay,
You're
Shane.
not speaking as we're looking at you on a frozen screen at the moment. Yeah, maybe you're back now.
Ah,
back now.
Okay, thanks.
sorry, folks.
It's okay, Damien. Sorry.
So you can see what is digital transformation.
No, we can't.
We can, yeah.
Have you not got it, Michael?
Yes, we have it here.
You got it, Michael?
Can I proceed?
Got
Can I
it now.
proceed?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think everyone has it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can proceed, Damien.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So the phrase digital transformation, it has been around since at least 2012. However, the process of digitization or migrating towards computerized technologies, that has been ongoing since the 1960s, would you believe? Your very presence on this Teams call is just an example of how we are progressing with digital technology. Can we proceed to slide 3?
Yeah.
So this slide gives an indication of the projects which the DX team have already implemented, some of which are in operation over the last 2 years. And just an example here is the meetings management software, the webcasting of the council meetings, mobile apps, customer apps, case management system for the municipal districts, online grants, applications, payments, reporting and consultations, etc. Mapping and reporting. This slide highlights the progress made by the team since its formation in early 2019. And it's important to outline that the online services portal was nominated for an Excellence in Local Government award. And I think that's something that we should adhere to. We have an ongoing advertisement campaign which will run into 2022. So you can see from the screen that we have 53 online services developed across 11 departments, 37 of which are public facing, 16 are internal. We have 3,298 people registered as self-service users, 8,716 on customer index as users of our online services, for example, community support helpline, ask a question, reported, etc. We also have 14.3 million euro processed through online grants. And if I could just go back to the 3,298 people that have registered online, I think that we should promote that even further, and that's something we intend to do next year. You can see from this slide that we have 650 customers to date who have adapted to the use of the online customer app. And as a unit and as a team, we see potential for this app whereby it could be used for customers in the area of loans, for example. The app offers customers a friendly way to manage their accounts. It's important to mention, I suppose, at this stage that the staff of our team in IT are prepared to assist customers with the use of the application should they need it. And you can see from that slide that already we have in excess of 228,000 paid through the app. That accumulates rents and rates, and there is potential. Of the 53 online processes have been delivered by the DX team to date. As the program progresses, we are trying to include as many business units as possible. And this is just key to instilling confidence in this system that we have produced. From the 53 processes outlined, 16 are internally. For example, the mobile phone application, and that comes through the ICT department. Prior to the enactment of this app, people had to go through a process whereby it was paperwork or calls to people. How do I get a mobile? But now, thanks to DX, we have delivered, and the process is whereby a person can now apply for a mobile, and it goes to their line manager, and it can be delivered within 1 or 2 days. This slide just outlines the processes which are available online. We won't go through them, but it just goes to show what has been achieved. So my online service. So what is the customer experience? I suppose often questions are asked like, is it user friendly? And the answer is yes, it is, because we endeavor to make the experience a positive one. Some comments from the customer will be presented later in my presentation. The customer app. To promote the app, we have provided 3 videos. Number 1, what are online services? Most important. Number 2, how to register. Number 3, how to report an issue. Reporting and analysis. So having information in the system. This allows us to analyze and present the data in various ways. It's key to remember that data output, and I stress this point, data output is only as good as the information that is implemented into the system. And for this reason, I'd like everyone to promote the use of this app. The analysis of data affords us the opportunity to base our decisions on statistical facts, which this tool can deliver. This slide is just an example of how easily we can see the number of cases logged by the districts. Another example, just displaying the types of calls and what the most common types are. This example shows just how an area engineer can monitor the activity relating to the calls in their section. Again, it's important to highlight that the use of the system is only as good as the information that is recorded. Another example of what we deliver to staff. This is the dashboard. It allows them to visualize data, analyze uptake of grants, for example, and monitor progress in relation to the dispensing of the grant. So what's next? Next year, the DX team, we hope to implement the online registration of ethics register, further grants online, LIS phase 2, planning enforcement complaint system, a grants heat map, and we did a case study internally to see how people were reacting to what we have implemented in IT. And their comments were, it works more efficiently and effectively. Integrate the information in more detail, have information available in soft rather than hard copy, reduces the time spent analyzing documents, most application stages, and it creates our own auditing end-to-end process. As I alluded to earlier, this is some customer feedback from both internal and external. System is fantastic. We would be lost without it. The online form eliminates errors and omissions. No need for piles of paper. Everything was on the system. Great system. It saves me time and it saves the customer's time. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Damien, for that very good presentation on digital transformation. I suppose over the last 2 years, digital transformation has expedited really because of the pandemic. And while I would have been one that, and still partially feel that not everyone is just au fait with some of the technology, and definitely in older groups, that there should be an option there still. I do see that we are going digital, and it's going to become more and more as the months and years go ahead. And I do find it myself actually for reporting things, it makes it so much easier with that and air codes and everything. We can just think. So I'll open it up to the floor now. The first hand I see up there is Councillor Marty Mcdermott.
I'll be brief. Thanks, Carl. Look at Damien. I'd just like to congratulate you on a very extensive and very clear report on that and presentation. A lot of great work went into that, and it's great to get the feedback that you've got back from it. It's very encouraging, and look, it's the way forward. And I just want to congratulate you on a job well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marty Mcdermott. Next up is Councillor Tony Ward.
Tony, you're on silent.
Now, can you hear me now?
Can
Yeah,
hear you
yeah.
now. Hear you now.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. I just want to compliment Damien on his wonderful presentation. I suppose as a councillor, it's shown the way that there's no doubt about it that this is the way forward. But as you alluded to yourself, Carl, I would say, we shouldn't forget the older generation of people. We shouldn't lose them. One size doesn't fit all. We have to move in relation to digital. There's no denying of that. That's understandable. But as someone representing people in a rural area, I have to take into consideration people that don't have broadband and people that wouldn't have a laptop. As we speak here today now, I have 5 or 6 people in relation to the LIS scheme, and those people don't have the facilities to go online. So that means for the county councillor, or for those people, if the councillor doesn't do the work for them, for those people, they have to go to a neighbour or a friend to see can they get someone to use their facilities to accommodate them. So overall, I thank you for that. But I would say to the management of Roscommon County Council, in relation to people that, that may not have broadband throughout County Roscommon, not in all areas broadband is poor enough quality of broadband. But in a lot of cases, we'll say you're dealing with older people. They don't have the facilities, they don't have the broadband, and they don't have the knowledge to use the laptop or computer. Thanks very much, Carl. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Ward. Next is Councillor Pascal Fitzmaurice.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach, and thanks, Damien, for the presentation. I suppose we all have to embrace the digital technology that's coming forward, and I think this system has worked quite well. I think when people get used to it, I think it'll be something that they will rely on quite a lot, and it'll make a big difference. I suppose a couple of areas where I'd just like to point out on the reported system for the mapping. I would like if we had Google Earth on that, because it would make it a lot simpler, maybe to find a house along a road where you're trying to report an issue, and you're sort of guessing as to where exactly that is. So that would be of benefit. The other issue I have is in relation to the reported system. You get a text message back to say your issue number, say 124567, has now been resolved. But unfortunately, it's hard to go and find out exactly where that issue is and when you reported it. So it can be, I suppose, difficult to know what the issue was and how it was reported. So that is something I think that we need to look at and see how we can improve on that. And one thing I would like to see going forward is, for the county, I would like to see a grid system. And how that could work is that you could start in a Rignet number 1, and every kilometre going south could be 1, 2, 3, 4. When you get down as far as Shannon Bridge, which is about 100 kilometres away, could be number 100. And we could go ABC going across the county in a 1 kilometre grid. So at least when you were talking to somebody about a particular issue, and if they told you, well, it was in number 71B, you could go to a map with a grid to see exactly where 71B was. So it would make it simpler for us as councillors and for people to know exactly what part of the county an issue might be reported in. While it would have to be more complicated to get down to a smaller area, I think we need something like a grid system, because I'm looking for a particular road. I have to try and find the road number to talk to somebody about that particular issue, other than putting it on the map and system. So I would like to propose that we would have a grid system for our county, so that would help us to identify areas quicker and simpler going forward. And that's a proposal I want to make. And apart from that, I think it's a good system, and I think going forward, I think it's a very positive thing. So I'd hope somebody would second that proposal I made.
Thanks, Councillor Fitzmaurice. Have we a seconder for that proposal of Councillor Fitzmaurice's?
Yeah, I can second that.
Thanks very. That's Councillor Waldron. Thank you very much for that. Next up to speak is Councillor Liam Callahan.
Thank you, Damien. And I wanted to say it's a great improvement. The online technology, I suppose, community groups and councillors and the general public are embracing it as you know, they're well able to get it. Most people are well able to get into it and put up their lodge their applications and follow up on their applications as they progress. However, there, as the previous councillor said, there are issues with the elderly and different types of people, that particularly that LIS scheme where they involves 3 or 4 different parties, and to have to get mapping and land area numbers and all that up on an application. It's not quite as simple for where there's a group involved as where an individual might be taking charge of it. In a lot of cases, people have to employ professional people to get the application in, and then hope that the application can proceed and that their money is well spent. If they're unlucky that their application is rejected for some reason, you know, they come back complaining then to they spent X amount of money to get this application. So I think from that point of view, these applications should be simplified, or that there should be some direct contact where the forms or where the maps can be handed in rather than maybe online, and that maybe within the council system then that the maps can be uploaded onto the application. I would like to see maybe an upskilling for councillors as well, because the technology has changed so much that maybe if there was a day given or a couple of hours of a day given where councillors could get more familiar with the scanning system and upgrading of documents, I think it could help us out on the ground as well, where we'd meet applicants and give them our knowledge of what's going on, because each application and each system is different. So in my own perspective then, where you lodge in a complaint, I agree with Councillor Fitzmaurice, you might get the report back that the issue is resolved, but it mightn't be resolved to what the satisfaction that we were hoping it to be resolved to. So I think that there should try to be some consultation maybe with the local supervisor or the local engineer, that when a complaint goes in, or that there should be some callback system that we could say we'll be satisfied with what is proposed, or that the people in that particular area will be satisfied with the works to be carried out. And to get the direct road number or house number, you know, you could put in a report and it may be a different area altogether that the staff are looking for the problem. So there are minor issues, I know, but the system generally is very good, and I want to compliment you for it. But I think, you know, if we had an upskilling day again, we could resolve a lot of these minor issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Callahan. Next, Councillor Lawrence Fallon.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and I want to compliment the team on the excellent work they've done over the last couple of years. While I know very little about the detail of setting up the system, I'm sure it was extremely cumbersome and difficult, and the outcome has been excellent in my opinion. There are tweaking issues, and I would agree with the issues that some people will never get an understanding of this digital transformation or the way we work. And I would equate that to the 60s and 70s, when some people of a certain age never learned to drive a car, and they became more and more disadvantaged as time went on. If we want to get one message, and one message clearly, is that age is not a barrier to understanding this digital transformation. People of all ages can take it up and can understand it, but there is a problem currently, and we need to understand that as well. But I think, generally speaking, people will find this a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage from a whole range of things. First of all, you can clearly explain what the application you're making, and certainly you have a record of the application that's made, so there can be no ambiguity as to whether it was or wasn't made. The issue I would want to mention, and it has been mentioned already in some form at least, when you report it, you tend to get a note back saying this issue is now resolved. Effectively, I think what that means is that it has been passed on to somebody else to fix the problem. Very often the issue is not complete when you get that note. So I think there is a need to tweak it a small bit at some stage in the future, that when the actual issue is fully resolved, that whoever made the complaint gets a note back saying this is now completely resolved. That's the only issue I would have with it at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fallon. Next, Councillor Valerie Byrne.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. I will have to say, I suppose I was weary about it when it was introduced, but I have changed my mind completely on that. And just that you go in, we have learning to do. And when you go in and you kind of get to know the system, and let it be for grants or reporting the where you need repairs done. And I will have to kind of agree with the others that you do get your text back or whatever, and you have to go back in to find out what that actual number relates to, that you were given a number when you put it through. So we could, if there's an address of where it was or something that could be put in there, you'd know what you were talking about, what was done. I have to say that I find it very good. People now that are kind of applying for grants and everything else are kind of saying that it's much easier just once you get into the system of it or the running of it. And the one advantage I think about the whole lot of it is that when you sit down at night, you can go in and do your reporting at any time of the day or night. You know, that it's not taking a phone call during the day or whatever. So I want to say well done. And I mean, it's great to see how many are using it so far, you know, because it's new to us. So, you know, in the next couple of years, I can imagine that everybody in the county will kind of be aware of it and using it. So well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne. Next, Councillor Donald Kilduff. Councillor Kilduff, are you there?
Can you hear me okay?
Poorly, Donald.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Is it any better?
That's fine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just want to say, I suppose I'll just congratulate the team and compliment the team on the great work they've done so far on the digital transformation. There's no doubt it's certainly saving all of the users and stakeholders involved with it a lot of time. And just to give you an example, earlier during the year, I had a complaint from a resident in the Athlone municipal area about a defective gully on the road, which was a danger to pedestrians and cyclists. So I asked them to send me their air code. It was outside their house, and a photograph, and I reported it that night. And 3 days later, I got a photograph from them to say, showing me that it was fixed. And it was just so efficient and saved everybody involved a huge amount of time. Saved me time, saved the engineers time, it saved the staff who were out doing the job time, because they knew when they were going to the job exactly what they had to do and what they needed to bring with them. So they didn't have to go and look at it and then go back and get the stuff and then go and fix the job. So just, it's so efficient, it saves everybody time. So just compliment the team. And obviously there's a few tweaks that need to be sorted out and improvements that can be made. But in the whole, it's excellent work, and it's a great benefit to us all. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Kilduff. Next, Councillor John Keogh.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Like the other speakers there, I'd like to just thank Damien and thank Una, who I understand is on the call there as well, for being here and making the presentation. Similar to what other councillors have said, it's great that and these apps are becoming available, but there are are some teething issues that do need to be addressed, and particularly with regard to after the councillors making representations, the reference that comes back bears no reflection to well, I find anyway, bears no reflection to the rep that's put in. A lot of time, and it's difficult, as Councillor Fitzmaurice said, to actually figure out which rep it's relating to, and particularly if it says it's resolved, which in a lot of cases it may very well not be. It may be that the matter will be taken into consideration, and often says subject to funding being available. And of course, if funding isn't available, it's as if the issue is then dealt with, and even though it's not actually resolved. So I think that there needs to be a better way of just being able to have that system operating so that it's easier for councillors to keep on track of representations that they're receiving, because I find it difficult now, and I'm reasonably savvy when it comes to tech. I do find it difficult, but there is a lot of progress. It's great to see the progress, and it is the way that things are going. Today, I think, is a classic example, unfortunately, of how technology can let you down to some degree when with broadband connections and that. But nonetheless, this is the direction that we're moving in. And whether we like it or not, we're going to have to embrace it. But we do need to allow for a transition period, as what Councillor Ward and Councillor Fallon were talking about in relation to, and others in relation to people who in their 60s and 70s or younger, who might not be tech savvy. That they have the access to the local government services as well. So it's important to keep that going until such time as we are in a position to transfer or to transition fully. Thanks.
And thanks, Councillor Keogh. And next, Councillor John Naughton.
I just also like to compliment the team on the work that has taken place. It certainly has made a significant difference in our ability to log and report work. It saves a lot of time contacting engineers and following up on stuff. And as Valerie said, you can log it there at night, and you get an email back, a confirmation email. Now there are problems, as some of the other councillors have outlined, but in general I think the system works pretty well, and it's something that going forward there's always teething problems, that going forward it's going to be a very good system, and any advancements such as Councillor Fitzmaurice has pointed out, things like that can only make it easier for the public and us as councillors to use the system and make it easier to identify roads and whatever is required in the locality. Just in relation to the submitting of applications online, and I think it does work very well for community groups, because nearly everyone is someone that's tech savvy in the group and is able to put in the applications, and I think it works very well at that level. But certainly last year there were significant problems with the LIS and the ability of individuals to lodge the applications online, and it couldn't go in through a councillor's email address either, so we couldn't do it for them. They had to have someone there that was able to do it, and I think it did disenfranchise a certain amount of people from putting in an application. And I think, as other councillors have outlined, we do need to be conscious of people that haven't the ability to lodge those applications online, and also have a facility there, that be it housing or local improvement schemes, that were there and able to facilitate them in getting those applications uploaded if they're not able to do it themselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Naughton. Next is Councillor Tom Crosby.
Thanks, Callahan. Look, I too would like to compliment Damien and the team for the presentation and for the work they have done over the last couple of years. there's absolutely no doubt it's the way forward, and I see you have 3 or 4 more programs for the coming year, and I assume in the not too distant future all matters can be dealt with online. So there is, as the other councillors alluded to, there is teething problems, but that's expected. I was talking to a councillor in a neighbouring county, and I think Roscommon, by the way he spoke about their system, I think Roscommon is way ahead, and I think they're up there with the leaders, if not at the forefront in the country. So well done. It saves the council a lot of money. It saves a lot of time from making the reps, etc. I also had issues with the LIS scheme, but not so much the technical side of it. The fact that the requirement for all the detail that was needed to make the application, and where you have 4 or 5 farmers and they have to get the various maps and ordnance surveys and so on, land registry maps. They're both expensive to get, and a lot of the farmers just would give up. I know I had one application there, and the fact that I couldn't do it myself online, I think that facility should be made available, that a councillor, where there is a difficulty with a group making an application, that a councillor should be allowed to assist and maybe do it through their system, because they had to call it off because there was 5 or 6 of them involved, and it got very it got very difficult for them to arrange. So I'd say that there does need to be first and foremost tweaking in relation to the requirements for the LIS scheme, but also that a councillor could assist in that regard. But I'm quite sure that this data protection, which has gone way over the top in every facility or in anything we do now, data protection is being used to prevent positive action on it. Anyhow, thank you, Cahill.
Thanks, Councillor Crosby. Next we have Councillor Anthony Waldron.
Thank you, Cahill. I'll be very brief. I want to say that I fully agree with Councillor Crosby and others with regards to the LIS scheme, and I broadly welcome the report, and I'm not going to delay the meeting by saying what others have already said. I want to just congratulate Damien and your team, and very well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Waldron. Councillor Michael Mulligan is next. Michael, you're on mute, Michael.
Come on.
Now we have you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm good at that. I'd like to congratulate Damien and Una on this presentation here this afternoon. Very, very interesting, and there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of us, we still will have to get a number of crash courses in it to update it a little bit more. And the one big thing about it is this, and I have to compliment Pascal Fitzmaurice for bringing it in there, and it will be a great help if the county is divided into sections or zones, or just like the map of the world. It'll leave things very, very simple for this particular issue. It's the way forward. There's a lot of people out there who won't understand it. There's a lot of people out there, like the complications that are there with the LIS scheme, that as Tom Crosby said, there is gone crazy. But anyhow, we have to get updated. We all have to get updated, and I think myself it's a few lessons in it we need. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Mulligan. Next, Councillor Kathleen Shanahan.
Thank you, Cahill. Look, I'd just like to thank Damien for the presentation. I've just listened to councillors saying about checking up the reference. I know when I want to check up, I go into the My Requests, and you can go in and check and type in the reference number and it'll come back up just to make, well, that's what I'm doing anyway, to check. But I do think we could do with being to get more upskilling on the service. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Shanner. I think that's all the hands we have up. Anyone else want to come in there? I'll just go back to Damien. There was just a few things there, Damien, as regards the proposal from Councillor Pascal Fitzmaurice and seconded by Anthony Waldron as regard a grid system. And a number of councillors had about the LIS as well, and how it can be difficult for people in rural areas that to get people that's tech to deal with the application.
Yeah, just a few interesting things there, I suppose, to point out. I suppose that I'd say the councillors voiced their opinion on that. Maybe they need more engagement, I suppose, on the system and the use of it, etc. When it comes to the LIS, Una, if you're on line there, I might get you to comment on that, please.
Yep. No problem at all. Thanks, Damien, and thanks, councillors. Yeah, I suppose the issues in relation to the LIS sound very much that they're in relation to the scheme itself. And you will know that the scheme this year, that's just been announced last week, there's a second round of it. It's actually a little bit easier for people to apply than it was, because even at department level, they recognise that the difficulties people had around putting documents together. But I know that some councillors did raise the issue about loading the documents, and we spoke in detail, and we actually did an audit with our roads department around the LIS, and we got hugely positive feedback back from the staff around how it worked. And we absolutely acknowledge what you're saying about people's access to broadband and to be able to do things online. But I can tell you for sure and for certain that the way in which the scheme operated last year was far and above what it ever operated at before, because the detail and the way they could track it, adjudicate on it, send reports to engineers, get them to look at their roads, come back with their written reports. It was a fantastic way. That's been huge. It's been hugely positive. But we as a team will commit to supporting anybody out there that has difficulties. We offered it when we went out with the amenity grants live first off, and we'll continue to do that. If anybody has difficulties, we'll absolutely enable them and help them in any way we can. We haven't had people coming to us. The only difficulty people have sometimes is that they forget their password or something, but largely speaking, people have been well able to use the system. It's very intuitive and we're very positive about it. But you're very right about the LAS scheme, but it has been tweaked this year, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better for people going forward.
Thanks very much, Una and Damien, for that. And there's a few. Shane, Director Shane Tiernan wants to come in there.
Thanks very much, Guy. Here, look, and just in fairness, Una has covered a lot of what I wanted to say there. In particular, there was comments made about the referrals of issues, the LISs, and referrals to supervisors. Look, I'm hugely encouraged, first of all, to hear the members. The vast majority of the input was positive and complimentary, and very positive about the developments of the digital system. Of course, as you said, there will be some difficulties. There will be some areas that are difficult for some people. For example, when an issue is put as closed on the system, it certainly may not be that the issue is closed. It's that the answer may be that it'll be part of next year's roads programme, or it's not part of this year's roads programme. I suppose the reality of it is that would be the answer whether a digital system existed or not. But what could help is that I certainly have spoken to the engineers in the areas that we will enhance the commentary to at least that the person is more aware that that is the position, as opposed to giving the impression that the matter is closed when it's not actually closed for what they are seeking. It merely has been closed in the context of being put up on the digital, on the My Online Services system. We do have a direct linkage to refer directly to the supervisors for dealing with issues. And on the LIS, again, to reiterate what Una has said, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we got the greatest funding ever last year in 450,000 euros. We completed 32 projects. They sped through the system because as I said in a previous meeting, all the data was correct and on the system at the point of referral for approval to the department, rather than discovering at that point that a lot of the information had to be sought or was incorrect. I know that change is difficult. Change is always difficult for people, but it made a huge advancement in the administration of the local improvement scheme and was hugely positive for going forward. As I said previously, we only have 6 schemes left, and we to the tune of 150,000. So all in all, it worked hugely well. I would again say, and Councillor Crosby touched on it, we can't have councillors as the point of contact because of various complexities involved, but all it takes is one person in the group where there are a number of landowners to become the nominated person, and they will then be the focal point for all the throughput, and hopefully in all the people that apply, there will be somebody that's somewhat tech savvy and able. I find that with all the other departments, agriculture, etc., they're all moving to online and people are finding ways of improving. I will just bring to your attention something there that was launched on the United Nations International Day for older people. The Alone and Active Retirement Ireland, partnering with one of the major digital companies, are rolling out a 5-year programme called High Digital to support 230,000 or thereabouts older people in Ireland in improving with digital services. It's not an initiative the council is involved in, but is being put in place to assist people in the older age category to improve their digital skills, and in bite-sized lessons give them the basics of using the internet and apps. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to give input on Cathaoirleach. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shane. Councillor Crosby, did you want to come in there again? Your hand is up. Councillor Crosby, are you there?
Sorry, I thought I had it turned on. My apologies. No, I was observing there at the bottom of the screen that the voice recognition and the accuracy is, I'd say, 95%. It's overwhelming. It's something that it shows you how advanced technology has got, that if you see it there on the bottom, it picks up every word, the voice recognition. So it's something that I think endorses the fact that technology is with us, and very much so. We're only on the tip of the iceberg, they tell us. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Crosby. Sean Malarkey, you want to come in there?
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. I suppose I just want to sort of compliment what Shane said and what a lot of the councillors have expressed. There's a lot of good ideas there, and this is under my remit as well. So I suppose the one that really stands out to me is the reporting issue, and that the importance of getting the right feedback to the councillors, whether a problem has been resolved or not. So I think that will be probably one we'll put the most focus on at the start, because there's not much point reporting issues if you don't know if they're resolved correctly or on time. So I think we'll take that one on board. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Councillor Ward, you want to come back in there briefly? Councillor Ward, you're on mute.
I just welcome what the Director of Services there, Shane Tiernan, said, and Onan E. Quinn in relation to the application forms being simplified, a big improvement on last year, and that has to be welcomed. But what the Director of Services was speaking about, where you have the, when I spoke in relation to the older people, I spoke in relation to the lack of facilities. Now, the Director of Services spoke in relation to having everything, having broadband in the area, having all the services in the area, and then it wouldn't be a major issue for that person to get a next door neighbour or someone. But in a lot of cases throughout County Roscommon, and I'd find it here in South Roscommon, that in a lot of cases you wouldn't have the local exchanges, wouldn't be enabled for broadband. So that would be an issue where you'd have, if you had broadband, that you'd have a poor quality of broadband. But in relation to that, older people and people in relation to roads and the big improvement it would make to their life to be able to drive in a road, whether they're residing on that road or farming off that road. That is the most important point for me, is though no one should be left behind. No one should be left behind. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Waldron. That's everyone has spoken now. I'd like to again thank Damien and Una and Sean. Look, it's unbelievable the way we've come forward in the last 12 months, 2 years. And look, it is only going to improve. A lot of those are teething problems, and people will get much more used of using it. So again, thanks very much to the team, and thanks for your presentations today.
Thanks, Cahir. Look, and if I could just add, I appreciate the both the positive. It was more positive feedback than negative, and we will take everything on board and deliver as best we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. Okay, we'll move on. Next is on the agenda is an update on the new LECP guidelines. So Fiona, if you're there.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Good afternoon, yeah.
We can, Fiona, yeah, thank you.
Can you see the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much for your time this afternoon. I just want to give members a quick overview of the new Local Economic Community Plan guidelines that were launched in November. So just a quick recap really for the members. The primary aim of the Local Economic Community Plan is to set out for the next 6 years the objectives and actions needed to promote and support the economic development and the local and community development of our county in partnership with economic and community stakeholders. It will be the primary mechanism at local level to bring framework relevant actions arising from measures under ethics statements of government policy, and it will be complementary to and consistent with the RESIS, county development plans and regional and national strategies. And we'll also have to take on board a number of other national strategies, including our Rural Future, the National Economic Plan and the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So the guidelines and the consultations involved. The Department of Rural and Community Development and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage established an advisory group that included representation from both of these departments, the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment and local and regional government. And the role of the advisory group was to support the guidelines process and to ensure that learning from the previous LEC process informed the development of these new guidelines. And there was also a number of focus groups that were held. So a number of you would be involved in those focus groups through the LCDC and the SPC groups earlier on last year. So just to put our local economic community plan into context, our current plan is coming to an end this year. The new guidelines will build on the lessons learned from the current cycle, as well as changes in policy, strategic and the socio-economic context. And it will form part of the overall process for the national transformation set out in Project 2040. So a new approach has been taken under the LECP, which has been suggested from the advisory group. So it's going to be a more flexible and agile approach to its delivery, and it's taking on the guise of a two-prong approach. So what we're going to have is an overall local economic community plan integrated framework which will detail the high-level goals for the 6-year period, and then we will have an implementation plan which will contain prioritised actions as well as performance indicators throughout the implementation plan. And this has been seen as the most critical aspect of the entire process. So the context, the context in viewing the local economic community plan. We will have the regulatory context, which takes on board the Local Recovery and Reform Act, which looks at local economic community planning and the economic elements. We'll have the socio-economic context, which will be the National Transformation Plan, taking on board the global pandemic and the effects of that. Climate change and action is going to be a big part of the new LECP. We will need to address the current climate crisis, and the LECP will have to support the delivery of actions in our local community action plans, climate action plans. We will have to take on board the 17 sustainable goals, and we will have to look at public sector equality. So we will have a statutory obligation on public bodies to have regard to the need to eliminate discrimination, to promote equality and protect human rights. So there's a very big ask in this next policy. So this is just a pictogram to show you the framework for the LACP strategic outline. So you can see in the middle we have our plan and our implementation plans. We'll have our own advisory group, which I'll talk to in a few minutes. Our economic SPC action group and our LCDC will feed into it. And to the left and the right, you'll see the statutory interest groups, which are yourselves, the officials of the local government, state agencies and the regional assemblies. And to the right, our sectoral interests, which will be our LCDC, EGN, our business groups, tourism and our environmental and climate action groups. So there's a huge framework for consultation and implementation there. Now, there are going to be 6 stages in the new LACP, covering preparation, the public consultation, the development of the high-level goals, the finalisation of the local plan, the implementation plan, and the monitoring, evaluation and review. So these have been broken down in the guidelines that you have already received. And as you can see here, within the 6 stages, there are another 3 parts to each stage. And I suppose stage 4, part 2, will show where the local authority will approve the final draft. But there will be huge consultation at all stages that you will find yourself involved with, albeit through the SPC, the LCDC, community groups that you're involved in. So there will be a very wide spectrum for consultation and participation through all of the stages. So there are a number of community elements which will be taken on board in the process. I'm not going to read down through all of these for you. I'm just conscious of the timeline you're on today. But the key words there are developing, coordinating, implementing. We will have to focus on the key social and economic issues that are relevant to the LACP. Community engagement and participation is key to the whole process. There has to be meaningful participation by communities. We will have to utilise community development principles in the LACP development, and we will have to set the local context for mainstream funding programmes. All of these will have to be taken on board in the community element process of the LACP. The economic elements, again, this comes through our local government reform, and we will be picking up on all the economic elements through our economic SPC. And as you can see, there are 6 key economic areas that we will have to adhere to when we are formulating our new LACP. So there are a number of responsibilities within the compilation of our LACP. The overall plan is a reserved function of the local authority. The economic element will be dealt with through our Economic Strategic Policy Committee. The community element will be dealt with through the LCDC. Consultations will be across the board from all organisations, community, economic, as inclusive as we can make it. And we will have set up our advisory steering group, which will assist in the preparation, drafting, adoption and implementation of our LACP. So the guidelines have advised that we would have members from our LCDC on the advisory group, and we have them nominated onto the group. We have 2 members from our SPC, the Chief Officer of the LCDC and the Director of Services, Mcdermott, will sit on this committee. So this committee will also have to look at a number of cross-cutting priorities that must be considered in the LACP, such as sustainability, which will include climate change, equality, poverty, rurality, age and disability. So when we are creating the plan, we will have to look at specific measurable goals and timeframes associated with these. We must specify relevant outcomes, and we must include appropriate metrics for measuring these outcomes. When we get as far as the implementation plan, we will have to have inputs and actions, and we must include activities that will contribute to the achievement of international, national, regional and local goals. We must identify appropriate partners relevant to each specific action and clearly outline the role of each partner. And this is key to the delivery of the action plans of our new LACP. We will have to deliver particular incentives, projects to support the implementation of all these actions. and we must estimate the number of years it will take to complete each action within a specified time frame. So through the implementation, the most critical aspect of the entire process is the effectiveness of the execution of the specific actions. And this will tie back to responsibility, delivering timeframes. The implementation plans must be clear, and we must include a table of actions that will detail the roles and responsibilities for all of our relevant stakeholders in the process. So there is a number of training and resources that have been set aside to support the development of our new LECP. So there is a dedicated page on the LGMA website, and you'll be able to access that to look at toolkits and forums that have been set up. There will be a series of thematic workshops in Q1 of 2022, which will be designed and delivered in partnership with relevant stakeholder departments. And these will include issues such as environmental, climate, community, social, economic infrastructure, the LEO, and the drafting of the new LECP. A webinar took place on the 9th of December to highlight issues around the LECP. There will be issues associated with the Dormant Accounts Funds project and pilots going forward into 2022. And there will be a subgroup set up to look at future dates for consideration of issues. So I suppose our next steps really in the process is the establishment of our advisory group, which has just been completed last week. So all of our members have been nominated to our advisory group, and the National Advisory Group has suggested that we would complete a review of the current LECP to inform the development of our new LECP. So we have in fact carried out a full review of our LECP during 2021. So that we will use that basis going forward to complete the review of the current LECP so that it can inform our new LECP in 2022. So that brings my presentation to a conclusion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Thanks very much for that, Fiona. There'll be a lot of consultation and discussion in the early part of next year. When do you hope that the draft will be coming to the local authority?
Councillor, the guidelines do not have any timelines in it on the draft, but the advice from the DRCD and the DHLGH is that we would take 2022 as our year for compiling the LECP. So at some stage, probably mid-2022, we would hope to be coming to our members with it. There's an awful lot of consultation to be done with all our community and economic groups before we get to a final draft.
Thanks, Fiona. Does any members have any questions there before we move on? Councillor Ward. Councillor Ward?
Now, can't hear it. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I can, Councillor Ward.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
No, I just want to thank Fiona for her presentation, tremendous presentation. But if you look at that document, there's a huge amount of information, and to me, there seems to be a lot of work to be done. But I have no doubt that I have every confidence that it will be done under the stewardship of Fiona Ní Quinn, and I'm sure that councillors will be kept informed and updated. But it seems to be a great document, and there'll be a lot of work, as I said, in it, and I'm looking forward to a lot of discussion on it in 2022. And I want to thank Fiona again for her presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ward. Next, Councillor Kathleen Shanahan.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Thank you, Fiona, for your presentation. Just to say you'll be engaging with people again, I suppose, will it be online again? Is that the way we're looking at it, to engage with the groups? And will it be through the PPN? And I'm just wondering, how will you engage with groups? Thank you, Fiona, for your presentation.
Thanks, Councillor Shanahan. Next is Councillor Anthony Waldron.
Fiona, thanks very much. I find it hard to take all of that in, but it's very exciting. I think it's a great plan going forward, I suppose, about now creation and awareness and understanding with our communities is of huge importance. And I suppose what I'd like to know, what role will the councillors play? Is it just those that's on the SPC or the LCDC? That's the question I have for you. And thanks, Fiona, for your presentation.
Fiona, do you want to come back into Anthony's question there?
Thanks, Claire. Just from Councillor Shanahan, I suppose, Councillor, it will depend on government guidelines, on how we will consult. Ideally, we would love to have face-to-face consultations, but I would say probably what we will do is we will make accommodations for both, because we want to be as inclusive as we can be, but it will really be dependent on what government guidelines are at the time for consultation. But we will make provision for both so that we will try and cover all angles. With regard to Councillor Waldron, yes, the elected members have a huge role to play in the new LECP. We will be expecting participation and input from all of the councillors at all different sections of the LECP, and hopefully that you will be feeding into it before it even comes as far as the draft. And there'll be very early stages of consultation, and we will hope that we will be engaging with all of our members for input into the LECP.
Thanks, Fiona. Next is Councillor John Keogh.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach, and thanks to Fiona for the presentation there. As Fiona mentioned there, she gave the presentation to the SPC there at the recent meeting. And you know, the first process of that has been established, and I want to thank you, Cathaoirleach, for agreeing to go on to the advisory group there as a representative of the SPC, and as corollary of that, as a representative of the elected members as well. I'm sure if there's any issues that anyone has, that your door is open to, or your line is open to receiving those as well. As part of that, and I want to thank you for substituting yourself for me, or stepping in for me in relation to it, because I just wasn't able to take on that role as the chairperson of the SPC at the present time. But it's at its early stages, really. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's moving in the right direction, and I'm hopeful that the new plan will deliver for the county. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Ward, do you want to come in there again? Councillor Ward, your hand is up. You're on mute, Tony.
I said we're going to have a busy year. I'm delighted that all the councillors, which is rightly so, will have a role to play, and I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ward. I don't see anyone else's hand up, and Councillor Keogh was right. I'm available, and contact me anytime, and I will liaise with the advisory group on if you have concerns or you have anything that you want to bring to it. Fiona, again, thank you very much for your presentation, and I look forward to working with you in the coming months, and a very happy Christmas to you and your team there.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Happy Christmas to you too.
Okay, we'll move on so to the draft annual service delivery plan 2022, and Kathleen Keneally. Are you there, Kathleen?
Hi, Cathaoirleach. Yeah, thank you. The annual service delivery plan has been circulated to members for noting. It translates the objectives of the corporate plan into a detailed strategy for service delivery. So we're just asking for it to be noted.
Thanks very much, Kathleen. So that's for noting that draft annual service plan. Next on the agenda is amendments to housing allocation scheme, and John Cummins, chair of the SPC, is to make a report. Councillor Cummins, are you there?
Yeah, thanks, Cathaoirleach. At our housing SPC meeting in October, we had a discussion in relation to the allocation scheme for local authority housing, and after the discussion it was decided that there should be two amendments put to the existing scheme, and they are as follows. One is under the heading of priority of letting, and in order to provide for homeless persons entrenched in homelessness with complex needs, item 1A has been inserted, and the item 1A reads as follows. The Roscommon County Council will determine the appropriate housing support to be offered to applicants assessed for as having an accommodation need based on homelessness. That's amendment number 1. And then we have amendment number 2, and it comes in under the heading of succession tenancy, and we'll read as follows.
all succession tenancies must be at least 18 years of age. Where the death of a tenant takes place, that tenancy will normally be transferred or assigned to any surviving spouse or partner in the first instance, provided that he/she was declared for rent purposes for at least 1 year beforehand. On the death of both parents, the tenancy will normally be assigned to a son or a daughter, provided that he/she has been living in the dwelling for at least 1 year immediately prior to the death of the tenant and has been declared for rent purposes during that period. Item number 3, where there are more than one eligible member of the household remaining in the dwelling and each have been declared for rent purposes for at least 1 year and have applied for the succession of tenancy, the tenancy will normally be assigned to the most appropriate person in the interest of good estate management or joint tenants. Item number 4, a grandchild, niece or nephew who has resided in the dwelling for at least 1 year and has been declared for rent purposes during the period immediately prior to the death of the tenant may be allowed to succeed where there is no son or daughter eligible to succeed and where the dwelling size is appropriate to his or her needs. Item number 5, a person who has not been declared for rent purposes for at least 1 year will not be considered for succession of tenancy. And finally, item number 6, in all applications for succeeding tenancy, any rent arrears on the dwelling must be cleared in full or a suitable arrangement put in place to clear the arrears before becoming eligible to succeed the tenancy. These 2 amendments, I might add, Chairperson, were adopted by the SPC with a recommendation that they come before the formal meeting here today for formal adoption, and I am proposing that adoption.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cummins, for that proposal on those 2 amendments.
Maybe we might get a seconder for that.
I would like to second
that.
I think Councillor Ward was in there. I think first he wanted to. Well, did you want to second that, Councillor Ward? You're on mute. You're on mute, Tony.
I'm on mute now.
No.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Tony.
That's okay. I just wanted to second that proposal. Thank you.
So on the proposal of Councillor Cummins for those 2 amendments, it's seconded by Councillor Tony Ward. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay. Agreed. Thank you very much, members. Okay, we'll move on then. Next is an Audit Committee work programme for 2022. Sean, do you want to say a few words about that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Sean, I can. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah, this is the Audit Committee Work Programme 2022 is for resolution. It's obviously sets out the work, the Audit Committee plan for 2022 and their objectives. It lays out the function of the Audit Committee. And you can see there on point 4, the work programme there they undertook in 2021, the meetings that were held, and what they identified their risks and whatnot. So that's the Audit Committee work programme 2022. So I'll need an approver and a seconder one for that.
Can we have a proposal proposed by Councillor John Cummins?
Here, Joe. Liam Callahan.
Seconded by Councillor Liam Callahan. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, thank you, members. Sean, you again for the audit.
Yeah, the Audit Committee report there on the audited AFS 2020. Basically, this document outlines basically the review of AFS 2020. It states, I suppose I would have gone through some of this, which the revenue account, the statement of the financial position of the council. Most of that is contained actually within the financial statements, and then it goes down through each of the areas and highlights the different issues that were presented to the Audit Committee and as it was explained to them, and It just lays out the document for AFS 2020, and they've obviously agreed it, signed it off. So it needs to be an approver and a seconder again.
Thank you, Sean. So proposed by Councillor John Cummins,
Seconded Chairman.
seconded by Councillor Tom Crosby. Is that agreed? And Sean, finally, the internal audit, annual audit plan 2022.
Yeah, it is what it says on the 10. It's their plan for 2022. This obviously they lay out their objectives and the different areas they're going, like that Martha will be working on in the internal audit. So like she has actually broken it down by days this year. So she's C&E, she's going to give 40 days to the environment. She has an audit plan there, 35 days. The finance digital transformation, 30 days, statutory obligations, 25 days, or actually, and another 25 days. She's obviously going to take a look at procurement, have a look at the low value purchase cards. That's another 25 days. And then usually at the year end, she has an accounts receivable review of motor tax, and that'll take 8 years. So Eugene, myself, the audit committee, and obviously Martha have signed off on that, and that just needs noting.
Thank you very much, Sean. That's for note. Councillor Cummins, you want to come in there?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment since the last item we're dealing with in relation to the Audit Committee. I'd like to thank Sean and Martha and the excellent work they do on behalf of the Audit Committee. And also, maybe, and we sometimes forget this, we have 3 outside members, as Councillor Fallon will verify, on that Audit Committee as well. And they do excellent work, very diligent in their work within the audit and scrutinise everything that's put before them. And I think it's only proper that because they're outside members, they mightn't be always recognised as such, that they're acknowledged and their work is acknowledged here today.
Thank you, Councillor Cummins, and I totally agree with that. Councillor Fallon, you wanted to come in there?
Well, I think John has more or less stole my thunder there on that one, but certainly I'm a year on the audit committee now, a year and a half, and I'm hugely impressed with the outside auditors, the detail they take, the amount of homework they do, and the amount of reading they do to ensure that the audit committee works properly, and we should appreciate them. Something operates below the radar. I would also want to thank Marty Kelly for the tremendous dedication she has to her job as well, and also to Sean, because the audit committee plays a huge role, as we all know nowadays. Tends to operate below the radar, but I can assure you the dedication of everybody involved. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fallon. I think that's all that was just for noting, isn't that right? And I would like to thank the team there as well. Thank you for all the work that you do. And while we only hear about it now when it comes to this time of the year, it's so important that this goes on. So thank you again, Sean, and the team there. Next on the agenda is the Chief Executive Business. Eugene, have you anything there?
Yeah, good afternoon, Cahill and elected members. Members, I regret to inform you that the Friends of the Irish Environment have issued fresh proceedings challenging my decision of the 14th of October that authorised flood relief works at Lacp. And the High Court will be hearing their application seeking leave to apply for judicial review tomorrow. And they will also be seeking an ex parte stay on carrying out of further works pending the determination of the proceedings by the court. Cahill and members, this is a very regrettable and sad development and news for the people of Lacp, and so I just want to express my concern for them, and we just have to see how matters proceed in the coming weeks, if not months. Thanks, Cahill.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. Very disappointing news. Very disappointing news for the people of the area. Yet again. I know there's members there with their hands up who want to talk. I would advise that we be very careful about the language we use here as we face into a case. So I know your frustration and I know your anger at the moment. So first up is Councillor Lawrence Fallon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, certainly my language will be very moderate compared to the way I feel, I can assure you. This is a huge disappointment on Christmas week. We were making very substantial progress on finding a very natural solution to a problem that has arisen here. I suppose we tended to expect that it was a possibility that these people might come back again. But if they were to see the suffering of the people in the area, and they were to see the effect this announcement will have when the local people here hear it, they should come and look and see the hardship that's been suffered by all of us around the lake, and also see the amount of destruction to the environment that the current state of the lake and the current high level of the lake is causing. This would be a win-win situation to get this pipe in to remove a very small quantity of water to restore the lake to its natural balance. I'm disappointed but not surprised, but on the other hand, I have great faith in the common sense of the court, and I would hope that the outcome would be that the people of the locality can be allowed to stay in their homes in the succeeding winters. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fallon. Next up is Councillor Emer Kelly.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Just briefly, I suppose to mention, it's disappointing to hear this news again today, especially coming up to Christmas week. The people around Lough Fuinchna have suffered for a long time now, so it is disappointing news. And I agree with everything Councillor Fallon has said previously there. And I hopefully a reasonable solution can come out at the end of all this to allow people to stay in their homes and to stay in their local area. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kelly. Next is Councillor Tony Ward.
Thanks very much, Cathaoirleach. That's devastation news that the CEO of Roscommon County Council has informed the councillors here today. I'm shocked. I'm saddened. Above all, I'm saddened. I feel very sorry for the families, 45 families involved. Not alone, a lot of those families, there could be 9 or 10 family homes flooded before the end of 2021-22, and I'd be very concerned in relation to the future for those farmers. As I have stated in the past, that a lot of those farmers, a lot of their income had disappeared. Their income farm payments were cut. And I say a lot of those farmers have reached the stage now, if there isn't something done in relation to their slatted sheds, in relation to their dwelling houses, it's going to be a bleak Christmas for those people. And I would have been born and reared there. I know all the people involved and the farming community. I'm from there. And as I said, I can't understand, and I hope that common sense will prevail in the long term. But it is a very, very sad day today at this council meeting, because I was hoping and praying that this job would be done and would be completed, and there would be a resolution founded. And when you think of this is ongoing since 2015 and 16, and the families have suffered above and beyond what they should have be allowed to have suffered. So I'm just extremely disappointed, devastated, and I'm so sorry for the members of the farming community that have resided there all their life and worked their family farms all their life. So their income has been gone, and there's, in relation to going into the courts again, and those people going back to the courts. I feel very saddened for the farming community there. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Ward. Next is Councillor John Keogh.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach, and similar to my fellow councillors there, to echo what they've said, I'm conscious, obviously, because the matter is going to be back before the court, not to make much comment, if anything, in relation to it, and let it take its course. But I do want to thank the Chief Executive and the members of the Executive Directors of Service, Shane and others that have been involved in the work that they've done to date. The fight continues, in relation to it. You know, as Councillor Ward and others have said, the farming community, the residents down there in Knockfinch and Bala have suffered greatly over the last number of years, and unfortunately continue to face exposure to significant risk, both to their livelihoods and to their lives, and dealing with an already tough situation. The forecast, or what had initially been forecast, the weather for Christmas, with possibility of snow, will only even complicate matters further. I know that the local authority won't be found wanting insofar as it's able to address issues, whilst at the same time complying with court orders and operating within the law. But it is very sad to see that it's back before the courts on the issue, and we'll just have to let it take its course, unfortunately. But it's Friends of the Irish Environment should hang their heads in shame that they're imposing such hardship on the members of the community down there, when the issue could be addressed with minimal impact on the environment.
Thanks, Councillor Keogh. Next to speak is Councillor Donald Kilduff.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. And I suppose, look, like all my colleagues, I'm devastated with this news. It's really shocking, to be honest, and so close to Christmas as well. I suppose, mindful of the fact that this is going before the courts, I'm going to say very little on the matter, except to say I'm hopeful that common sense will prevail here, and that the outcome that's needed will be reached. So I'll just leave it at that, other than to say it's devastating and very, very disappointed. Thank you.
Sorry, thanks, Councillor Kilduff. Next up is Councillor Tom Crosby.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Like the other speakers, it's certainly devastating news for a community that has suffered so much over the last couple of years, and now that had seen light at the end of the tunnel. Like, clearly there's a power struggle here, as far as I can see, with these groups. I think it highlights one thing, that the whole issues that objectors and particularly judicial reviews, every paper you pick up now, there's judicial reviews, stopping progress with various infrastructures around our country. It's left it in a way that investors from abroad is coming very shortly, that unless it's addressed, and it's down to our Oireachtas members at the end of the day, I guarantee you, I used to chair the Western Development back some years ago, and I requested the CEO at the time to get examples from other countries throughout Europe. And the examples that came back, the whole planning process here is absolutely, I'm talking about the appeal process, not the planning process as such, but the appeal process here in this country is an absolute and utter joke, and it falls with our Oireachtas members. And I think this is an opportunity now to bring it to the floor of Dáil Éireann and change and amend it, so that these people cannot in the future, and at the end of the day, when they lose out, if, for instance, if they hold up major planning for a couple of €100 to make an appeal to On Board Pleanála, they could hold up 100 million of a planning project, and they end up costing them nothing. In other countries, it would put them out of business if they lost, and that's the type of legislation that needs to be brought in. We need to bring it in line with our counterparts throughout Europe, and I guarantee you there's no example in Europe that would allow this sort of carry on, that people living in fear, already people had to leave their homes, elderly people, and to think, and they as Councillor Fallon pointed out there, the amount of disturbance, we'll say, in the actual environment, the lake itself, it's minimal what has been happening with the pipe network that is addressing the situation. But it looks to me as that they want to win out. They want to, it's a power struggle here, and please God that the courts will see fitting to ensure that this does not happen. But I think that at the long term, the whole thing needs to be addressed, and very urgently, because investors coming into our country will just turn away, and it's happening. We've seen the case down with Abbott's down in Galway, where an 800 million investment was brought before the courts. It's crazy what's going on. It really and truly is, and it's about time it was addressed. Thanks, Callahan.
Thanks, Councillor Crosby. I don't see anyone else with their hands up, but I can be assured that I know all the members that are here will be disappointed. But I have to commend the Chief Executive and the Director of Services for the commitment they're giving to the people around Loch Funchina. And it is very disappointing leading into the week of Christmas that this would happen. But as other members have stated, it's before the courts, and it's probably very little we can say, only let due process happen. So we'll move on to the next. We have two notices of motion. Two notices of motion coming up. One is Winter Maintenance Programme 25-21. Patricia, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks, Callahan. Look, this is the notice of motion from Councillor Waldron that this council carry out a full review of its gritting and salting programme network. Public consultation should form part of the review. The reply is that the winter service plan is Roscommon County Council's commitment to maintain a certain level of service on specified roads throughout the county. The management of the roads department carry out a review of the winter service plan every year in advance of the winter months. It is necessary to prioritise vital and strategic routes in order to use available resources to the greatest benefit. The plan, which as far as reasonably possible, allows the safe movement of vehicular traffic on the most important defined routes of the road network, while also minimising delays and accidents directly attributed to adverse weather conditions on the identified routes. The plan is optimised to ensure the most effective deployment of resources in line with funding and relevant legislation, and as an executive function does not go for public consultation or adoption by the members. The Council again reminds road users that the primary responsibility for road safety remains with the driver of the vehicle. Road users cannot assume that roads are free of ice at any stage and must be themselves responsible for ensuring that they drive or use the road with proper care and attention to their own driving behaviour.
Thank you, Patricia. Councillor Waldron, do you want to let you in there?
Oh yeah, thank you very much, Callahan. I'm just referring in particular to a road that was always up until recently, that I'm talking about from Ballinlaw over to Lowbury, where the lorry would be on its way over to Cloonpad. And my understanding is that the lorry still go that direction. And, you know, I would greatly appreciate if they can give consideration to salting and maybe gritting when necessary, but in particular some very dangerous parts of the road, and in Grand Lahan as well. And I must say that, you know, where the roads that are gritted and salted, that they do an excellent job, the whole team and the drivers. And there's one other issue there as well that I'd like to raise, actually three in particular. Two at Orden, the L1622 and the L1631, and one in Roscommon Town, the L1802. And even this year and last year, some cars slipped out there to the N60 and we had accidents. So I would like to think that you could maybe possibly carry out a road safety audit on that, if you please. And I'm proposing that here now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Waldron. Next up to speak is Councillor Tom Crosby.
Hello, sorry. Callahan. Yeah, the programme that is basically confined to the national primary and national secondary roads, and of course the regional roads. There are other roads that, and I'll give you one in particular, that's Ruski to Tarmanbarry Road. In fact, you might remember from media reports last year the community had to get together to put sand out on the road where it was so dangerous. So I think a road like that should be included because it carries an awful lot of traffic. It's a windy, bad road, and it's subject to a lot of accidents during the winter weather. So I think there should be roads such as the Tarman Road that should be included in the programme, and I'd like to support the notice of motion. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Crosby. Next is Councillor Pascal Fitzmaurice.
Thanks, Cahill. Yeah, I want to support the motion as well. This is a huge issue in West Roscommon where we've had many archeries. If you go from Clonfad to Grand Lahan, right over to Ballinlough, over to Gortigani and right up to Ferrymount, up on the hill, one of the highest places in our county. There's no roads at all gritted in those areas, and it's really, really difficult for people during severe winter weather to get to any services. And as we see, we are losing services in all the villages, and people more and more have to come into the towns to avail of services. So they have no choice but to drive on these roads if they want to get food, if they want to get different items, maybe collect a pension, things like that. So more and more people have to travel to larger towns to get the services. They don't have a choice. There are times when people have told me in the past where they couldn't leave their house maybe for a week, and it puts them in a very precarious position, especially for an older person. So thankfully this winter, I think we've been gritting roads, salting roads maybe 3 or 4 times this winter. So there should be quite a considerable amount of salt in the storerooms. There were many winters where we might be out for 30 nights at this stage salting roads. So we should have plenty of salt. There's no excuse from that point of view. And I think we should be doing more to salt more of these roads that are actually main arteries, even though they mightn't be regional roads. They're main arteries for people to get to different towns and get to work. And I think we have to change the way we salt our roads and help these people out. That's our function, is to serve the people of the county, the people that democratically elected us, serve them and to grit the roads that they want. This is what they want, and that's why we're here talking about it today. So I'd like to see an improvement in that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Pascal Fitzmaurice. Next to speak is Councillor John Keogh.
Thanks, Cahill, and I'd like to support Councillor Waldron in relation to his motion. I get the point that has been made in relation to motorists. You know, it's a primary obligation of the motorists to ensure that they drive at a speed on a road that they can maintain control of their vehicle, and I don't want to seek to shift responsibility from the motorist to local authority in any shape, make or form in that respect. But there are certain roads out there, local roads as well as regional and national, that present a hazard. And whilst I accept that there has to be priority of the road network, I think that consideration it shouldn't be too rigid or so rigid that it's not possible to get local roads gritted. I think that the engineering staff should be left the discretion to go out and to grit local roads if they are deemed necessary. In that respect, the L2025, for example, is a local road out from Ballinamullia to Top McConnell that links on to the R353, and it's a true road that people use quite a lot. Even though it is a local road, it has a lot of traffic. In particular, it has a lot of heavy vehicles, and there have been over years consistent accidents in frosty weather on that road. And one particular morning, I recall, I think there was 8 cars went in at the same location, one after another. So that wasn't necessarily down to driver behaviour or anything like that. It was down. Now there was issues done to address the road at that location, but there still is a need to grit that particular road in question, and also the road coming out by Drum. I'm sure Councillor Ward would raise the issue in relation to the L2018 as well, in the junction there. And,
you're right there, Councillor.
With the N61, as he's previously raised on many occasions. But that is, there needs to be flexibility in it, and the engineering staff, the need to be able to make that discretionary call if road safety requires it, and I would hope that will be the case.
Thanks, Councillor Keogh. And Councillor Ward, you were
Yeah.
up. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks, Callahan. Well, you know, you have you have regional roads and rightly so that they're you have the salt on those roads or the written of those roads. But I've raised the 2018 road, which is from Curraboy to Kiltoom. There's as much, if not more, traffic on that road, although the classification of the road is a local road. So there's a huge amount of traffic there on that road, and plus the fact there's a lot of hills on the road. So I'd be very concerned about the 2018. I would also agree with Councillor Keogh in relation to the 2025. And that road goes right from Ballymullia across into and through to Top McConnell. A lot of heavy vehicles on that road, and that's road certainly from Ballymullia out by Sunny Kildays and straight through the crossroads. That road should be included in the roads programme for Salton. I'd also look at the road, and it's a road I've mentioned on several occasions, off the regional road there, and that is the Scrying Road down into Roscommon town. There's a lot of people from my part of the country that's working in Roscommon town, and I know that I would have requested and approached Roscommon County Council in the past in relation to, especially to the hills on that road and the narrow road with a lot of traffic on it. And I have to say that Roscommon County Council did put salt on the road, but the road should be included. The road wasn't included in the programme, but that section of road should be included. But I'd also say, and I'll finish on this, in relation to villages throughout County Roscommon, villages, especially villages and footpaths, those roads should be gritted, because whether they're on a local road or not, but if you have villages there with a lot of older people trying to access the local shops and the post office in the area. So the roads in those villages and footpaths should be made safe. Thank you, Callahan.
Thanks,
and
Councillor Ward.
I'd just like to second Councillor Anthony Waldron's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. I'm going to just bring in Councillor Callahan and Councillor Mulligan next, and I'm going to go to Director of Services. He has his hand up, Shane Tiernan, after that. So, Councillor Callahan.
Yeah, I suppose the meaning of the motion is very well meaning that we accept as a good service done for a large majority of the main routes, but I suppose in rural areas we don't get that kind of service. And you know, it's hard to explain to people then why this road has been done and the other isn't. I think what Councillor Keogh said there, that the local engineer and staff should be left with some discretion, and I think a lot of the time they do respond where there is local concerns and local worries, especially if there's some event on, or if farmers or business people are finding it difficult to get around. But I think it's something we have to be able to discuss, except as you know, the staff have a huge you know, it's huge pressure on them to get around as well, and we have to be very conscious of the risks they're taking going out in the middle of the night on very slippy and very dangerous situations. And you know, sometimes last year I remember there was horror criticism of roads not being surfaced, but actually at one stage, I suppose the uncertain weather we're getting, there was no frost at 6 o'clock in the morning, and at 6:15 or 6:30, the whole area was black with frost. So that creates its own dangerous circumstances for drivers. So maybe if we had some sort of signage or some signalling on roads that they were gritted or not gritted, to give drivers more awareness. But you know, it's difficult to get it all right. But I think we have to work together locally and accept the plan as it is, and where we can improve it, or where the service locally can pick up. I think that's very important too. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Callahan. Councillor Michael Mulligan.
Hello.
You're on mute. Yeah, have you, Michael?
Okay, thank you, Cahill. Well, this is an issue that comes up every year, and it's the same story every year. Some roads are gritted and some roads aren't gritted. Now, the one thing I notice about it is this: common sense goes out the window with the gritting of roads. I see it in our own area where you have the N4, the new bypass into Ballahadreen, gritted, and the old N5 isn't gritted. And the point about it is this: this is where the people live, is on the old road, not on the new road. And this is continuous right across the county. And I heard Pascal Fitzmaurice mention there Fairymount, the second highest part in County Roscommon, where the frost hits first, and it doesn't get a touch of salt, maybe now and again. But another place that doesn't get gritted is publicly is a Rigna. And these places that don't get gritted, at least there should be a lorry load of stuff left out there so the locals can grit it. There's a lot of issues out there, and you go into Roscommon, you say this can't be gritted, and you'll be told, well, we can't do that simply because if we do the road you're asking, we'll have to leave out another road. Which one do you want? You're put in an awful awkward situation, and this has come up time and time again. And it's not just me that's saying it; it's other county councillors that say the same thing. So I know there mightn't be enough grit to do every road, but if we can at least do the ones besides the national and the primary ones, if we can do where the people are living, and especially where the schools are. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Mulligan. I'm going to let the director in, Shane Tiernan there. He has his hand up a good while. Shane.
Yeah, thanks, Cahill. Look, thanks for all the comments there. Look, Cahill, look, as I said previously, you're right, this issue has come up a number of times. I keep reminding the members that there are 4,000 kilometres of roads in Roscommon. In an ideal world, we'd grit them all, but that would use up the entire council budget, I would suggest, if it was a bad year. That's just not the reality. TII, we have an obligation in law to do the primary and secondary routes, and TII fund us for those. And thereafter, the regional and local roads are out of our discretionary spending. So therefore, if we increase gritting on local roads, there's going to be no surfacing or verge trimming or something else on local roads. That is just the reality. So therefore, the engineering teams assess the roads, and the roads that are in the programme are those that have the greatest volume and allow access to essential services in the event of ice. There's a load of other complications. I know members are asking about discretion and so forth. It cannot be that way. We have to, if we lay out a roads programme, we have to grit those at set rates. I said it before, it's very scientific, it's discoverable in the event of an accident, and we have to be able to stand over what we do. It can't be an ad hoc basis. Like everything else, if there's a severe weather event, naturally enough, we'll do everything we can to ensure people have access. We will support towns and villages and so forth. There's never a case of it being a shortage of gritting. It's simply down to resources. You have to also remember, if I have gritting lorries out at night and I extend their area of coverage, that means those drivers are out of service the next day. And if it's only in icy conditions, normal work can continue the following day. So therefore, we have to have those crews available to do normal work as well, or other crews whereby the relief drivers would be doing the standard work during the day. So again, it doesn't matter if it's a severe snow event, all bets are off. So therefore, yes, then we can get the public and the citizens assisted with additional gritting and so forth. But in the main, it's a case of assessing the roads that are the most foot traffic on them. We are doing about 700 kilometres at the minute, over 20% of 4,000 kilometres. That's proportionally as high, if not higher, than any other county. And you know, our funding simply doesn't allow any more than that. So that's what has to continue. The roads programme has to, or the gritting programme has to continue in line with the commitment that we have live and online for everyone to view. And you know, there was commentary made there about the N5. To the best of my knowledge, we are doing the old N5 out of Ballahadreen, and I think something that the members need to be cognizant of. We will be inheriting in the next 2 years an additional 33 kilometres of roads when the existing N5 becomes a local road or a regional road. I'm not sure which classification it will be yet. That will have to be budgeted for, because that now falls back under our remit. So of course, ideally, we would love to do all the roads the members mentioned, but the roads that are done are based on analysis and fact, and that is the way it has to continue. Thank you, Cahill.
Thank you, Shane. Councillor Marty Mcdermott, you wanted to come in there.
Thank you, Cahill. Look, I understand where Shane is coming from. I know it's a difficult situation for him, and the amount of roads that has to be taken into consideration and included in under the weather circumstances and especially frost. But I have a deep concern of the N60 in Orden there, where the new road was opened, where with the main road used to be Damien there, and coming on off that onto the new road is particularly lethal in extreme frost, and it's something that has been, as a public representative, been brought to me numerous times. I don't want to be bringing this to meetings every time and trying to stress it, but I have no choice, because it's been brought to me every time, every year when we get severe weather. This has been brought to me. Phone calls, emails, Facebook, whatever the case may be. The same with Gallastown, the same along Gallastown there. Huge issues there with frost, with the hill and all that, with people that's living there trying to get up and down that road. They're not able to get out, especially along the new roundabout along there, from the new roundabout out the Boyle Road there over to Gallastown, along that stretch of road there. Particularly dangerous as well, and other surrounding areas in the town. But I do understand the problems that we do face with the manpower and the storage and the amount of grit that's available to us. But at the same time, it's a very serious situation we do have, and because I have no choice, I need to voice the concerns of the public. That's what my job is there, and why I'm there, and that's why I'm elected. And unfortunately, they're not happy at certain times of the year when this weather occurs, and the problem is, and the fear is, of a fatality, and that's the last thing we need. And we just have to consider all these options. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor McDermott. Councillor John Keogh.
Thanks, Cahill, for letting me back in there, and I heard what the director has to say, but you know, there are problem spots, Director, in the county, right across the county, particularly at junctions onto national roads and onto regional roads. And there are some housing estates, for example, and I can pick one particular problem spot in Monksland. It's the exit coming out of Slíoncusta, Mount William Rossard housing estate. Vehicles struggle to get up the hill there at that, coming out of that. And that's an ongoing issue. So it's not going to change. So I think that, you know, there has to be a degree of flexibility and a degree of, and if it is a case that, you know, more financial resources need to be allocated from the local roads program, then, you know, then that's what has to happen. But the reality is that there are certain problem spots, and we're not talking about just every local road or anything like that. And the roads that Councillor Ward has referenced and that I've referenced, these are ones that councillors in the main are continuously referencing because they pose the greatest threat. There are lots of other roads we know that can present problems, but these are ones with quite a bit of traffic on them. But that's just an example there. I mean, that Slíoncusta housing estate, and that comes out onto a local road that goes through Monksland. So, you know, there needs to be those issues addressed, because you have somewhere in the region around 300 houses in that estate there, quite a substantial portion of the population that get isolated and have difficulty getting out of that estate. And just picking that as an example. And that's why I do think that there needs to be a degree of flexibility or discretion that the engineering staff can apply in relation to it. And that's not to say that there's a need for it to be gritted every single evening, but certainly if we have weather events that are not the normal winter maintenance weather events, and I'm not particularly talking about an extreme weather event either, that there has to be that discretion to allow them to go out and grit those. I think that's it's problematic that they don't have that discretion.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Shane, you want to come back in there?
Just briefly, here, like again, to say, as you know, just listening to the members there, I mean, just totting it up, just in the few roads that were mentioned today.
Shane, you've muted yourself, Shane, sorry.
Apologies, Cahill, I think I clicked twice.
Yeah.
I was just saying there, Cahill, as to the best of my knowledge, everyone is within 5. Every household is within 5 to 6 kilometres of a gritted road. Now, of course, there may be exceptions to that, but there are very few. And one of the things that I've just totted up there as people were talking, just a few members that brought up certain roads, brought up over 100 kilometres of road straight away, and I outlined that our resources are allowing for 700 kilometres at the minute. That's without going around on all the other members. So it just gives you an idea how quickly this gets out of control when people start suggesting local roads. And that's why the executive has to review and do the essential roads that allow connection to essential services where the greatest volume of traffic is, along with our legislative commitment to the national primaries and secondaries. And thereafter, if any more are to be added, it's a matter of assigning substantial financial resources to be able to support it. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you very much, Shane, for that. Look, it's probably an issue that will be back up again with us next year. I do believe that there should be some flexibility, because there's a good chance that if it's freezing down here in Strokestown with me, there's a good chance in South Roscommon it mightn't be freezing. You know what I mean? It's very hard to plan ahead for frost. So we'll move on to the next. Sorry. Yeah, Councillor Waldron.
Briefly, it's just important we've listened to the people, and we're just passing it on to the County Council, and there are some, as other members suggested, really dangerous areas. But just go back to my proposal. I propose there that there be a road safety audit carried out on L1802, L1631, L1622, and it must be remembered that this was as a result of work done by the TII, and that we write to TII as a matter of urgency. It's genuine cars slipped out onto those main roads and nearly the cause of accidents, so we must get that addressed. So I'm proposing that now,
Cathaoirleach, before that's seconded, it's not a matter of writing to TI. That's not a national primary road, and it's a matter for, as I said, funding locally. But ultimately, it's the engineering crews based on the Bisala system, which analyses ice conditions and traffic volumes and so forth. It's a matter for that team to decide the roads that are gritted.
So the TII will have no
input on that road.
Input on that at all. Okay.
But maybe as a result of the work that they carried out, that the right surface isn't on the road.
No, it's a local road, councillor. So it's a matter for if we can. It's a matter for the local engineering teams, and any issues on local roads is a matter for the local area engineers. And if they're to be degraded, the funding has to be there, and it has to be part of the roads programme. It cannot be ad hoc, as I said. We cannot put a road up on our system saying that it's a gritted road in the winter period if it's not done on it, because then we're setting out false expectation to the public that might use that road. Like I said, I totally understand where the members are coming from. In an ideal world, all these roads would be gritted, but you have to understand the constraints that the executive is working to on this.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Councillor Kilduff, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, thanks, Cathaoirleach. Just listening to all the members on the executive there, and I'd just like to propose maybe that an audit would be carried out of the black spots that are in the county, and as part of that audit, then that it would be just costed what it would cost to service those annually each winter as part of the winter programme. I mean, there are some particularly dangerous junctions, and there are junctions with hills on them where people are struggling to get in and out of roads and estates. And if an audit could be carried out just to identify all the black spots, not talking about entire stretches of road or anything like that, that obviously would be beyond all resources, but if we could identify a defined list of black spots in the county and put a cost on it and let it come before the members to see is it possible or feasible to do this at all. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Kilduff. Shane, you want to come in on that?
Again, Cathaoirleach, I can't give that commitment because, as I said, there's a very specific way this is addressed, and it's not something of what's assumed to be black spots. This is not. Everyone will have wishes and desires locally, but this has to be left to the technical methodology that applies when assessing roads based on the resources available. That has to be the way it will be. It cannot be something that's on the basis of assumptions of black spots and so forth. We can't define black spots like that.
I think Councillor Kilduff was sort of saying that to carry out an audit of it to see what was, no? Would we do that in conjunction
Yes,
with engineers?
that's great. Like maybe we could just collate a list, carry out an audit, just get a list together of the black spots and see is there some way of dealing with those black spots going forward. Yeah.
Cahir, look, I'd be happy to second Councillor Kilduff's proposal there in relation to it, because, you know, for years we've been driving around, and we drive around the county and we drive around the country, and we see big signs saying accident black spot. So, you know, there are. It's certainly something that should be carried out so that we get a better understanding of where the need is likely to arise. And while I heard what the director has said in relation to the length of kilometres there, I'm not for one second suggesting that the entire of the L2025 will be gritted, but there are certain locations on it that do need to be gritted. And similarly on the L2018 there at the junctions, and as Councillor Ward has said, at the hills. You know, those are locations that can be assessed, I would have thought, and included then in a programme. But again, going back to it, it's not about just gritting every single road that we're talking about. We are identifying roads, and consistently the councillors are identifying roads that are problematic at particular locations. I think it would be fair to say, I think that would be a fair statement to make in relation to it.
Shane, you want to come in there?
Councillor, I wouldn't want to lead any of the members down an avenue believing I'm going to do something that I can't commit to. So because it's absolutely optimising our resources based on the routes identified. It can add black spots that Councillor Q related to there. It might have nothing whatsoever to do with ice and frost. It could be complete other reasons. It could have been somewhere to do with a bend that has been taken out at a future point or whatever. So look, I wouldn't want to mislead the members. As I said, we are the ones have to be responsible for the gritting programme. We're the ones have to stand up and account for it when there's issues with regards to it. So I leave it with those best placed to assess the routes and to allocate the funding to the best possible way in optimising the most roads for the funding available. So I won't be making any commitment, Cahir, with regards to any audits. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Councillor Waldron, did you want to come in there again?
Just very briefly.
Briefly now, yeah.
Yeah, the three I referred to, what I'm saying is, could you take a look at the surface that's on that road, and that maybe put a different type of surface on it could eliminate the problem. That's what I'm saying.
That can be taken up with the local area engineer, Cahir, and I'll refer it to him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shane. As everyone else, everyone else happy enough?
Cahir,
okay, board, yeah.
Through the chair there, you know, the issues on local roads, and Councillor John Keogh alluded to the fact, and he's right. When councillors are dealing with the general public, and when you're looking at a situation that you have a problem that may be a problem due to the fact that you're going to have frost and ice, and the ones that I identified, I wasn't expecting Roscommon County Council in relation to one section of road 5 kilometres to salt to 5 kilometres, but I would be expecting Roscommon County Council to salt where you have dangerous junctions and where you have inclines and hills on a section of road, that those areas would be done, and which wouldn't be a huge pull on the resources of Roscommon County Council. And I'd be very conscious of the fact that those hills that with frost are deadly dangerous, but without frost, and if there was any other issue other than frost, well, I as a councillor would be going through the local area engineer and writing to you, Shane, as Director of Services, in relation to the condition of the road. But the issues that I have highlighted here today is the issues dealing with where you have dangerous junctions. And if you look at near to the town of Roscommon there, when you come down in Scrying, you have, you know, 500 or 600 metres of a fall all the way. And that is an narrow road with a bad bend on it. That is the type of an area that I was looking at that could be salted and should be salted. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ward. I think what we've come from here is that contact the engineers and we'll see can we work from there if for future years if there's roads and sections. So we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the next notice of motion 2621, a request for a meeting with the TII. Patricia?
Yeah, it's a notice of motion from the elected members of the Athlone Municipal District, Councillors Fallon, Keogh, Kelly, Kilduff, Nafton and Ward. At the Athlone Municipal District meeting held on the 2nd of December, we were informed of a letter from the TII dated the 26th of October 2021, stating that they would not meet with the elected members of the Athlone Municipal District to discuss a range of safety issues pertaining to the N61, because it is not their policy to meet delegations from municipal areas. We now request that Roscommon County Council seek an urgent meeting with the TII to discuss this matter. This motion requires a resolution of the Council.
Okay, thank you very much, Patricia. Up first to speak on this is Councillor Lawrence Fallon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, this notice of motion has come because of the frustration of the Athlone municipal area to make any contact or any meeting with the TI with regard to the serious issues with regard to the N61 because of the extremely high level of traffic and the ever-growing level of traffic on that road, way beyond its ability to take the traffic, because of the number of junctions that's onto that road, which are each of them in their own right very busy, and each of them propose a traffic hazard. The fact that there's a school and a church, a growing school and a church in Ballybay with very significant access problems with regard to the N61, a busy business further down the road, a whole level of junctions from the Crockery to Roscommon Town, which are all considered, in my opinion, and the opinion of my fellow colleague councillors, to be extremely dangerous. But probably the biggest annoyance we have is the fact that the TI have refused to meet, literally refused to meet the municipal district councillors on foot of a letter we received from them prior to our last meeting. Now, it was our opinion, and certainly my opinion, that when municipal areas were set up, they were being given a certain level of autonomy and given a certain level of influence as to how they might do their business. The fact that the TI have stated clearly that they will not and don't intend to meet with a municipal area and will only meet with a local authority, to me is absolutely makes no sense. Because the issue we're discussing here is extremely serious to the entire municipal area of South Roscommon, but it is of a lesser value to the Boyle municipal area, and you could have an issue vice versa. So we are extremely disappointed, and I particularly am extremely disappointed that 6 elected members in the municipal area of Athlone have been refused, and subsequently a number of occasions refused a meeting from the TI on the basis that we don't merit one because of our status. This is an issue that is of extreme importance, and I would say the most important issue with regard to safety in County Roscommon, particularly in South Roscommon. So because of the failure and because of the refusal of the TI to meet with a delegation in the area where the problem is, we have left with no option but to ask Roscommon County Council to seek a meeting with the TI to discuss the issues that I've already referred to, because they are urgent, they are growing, and they are severe. And for that reason, I am proposing that we would ask Roscommon County Council to write to the TI to secure a meeting to discuss the traffic problems pertaining to the N61 and any other issue pertaining to South Roscommon. Thank you.
I wish to second that motion.
Next up to speak is Councillor Ward. You wanted to?
I want to second that motion, Catherine.
Okay. Next up to speak is Councillor Keogh.
Thanks, Cahill, and I'd like to was a joint motion, obviously, from us all in relation to it, and it's born out of the fact that we, as far as I'm concerned, got a contemptuous reply from the TII in relation to the issue. We are a body of people elected by the people. The municipal authorities have been, districts have been set up under statutory on a statutory basis. and yet we have a state agency in the TII refusing to meet with the elected members. Now, their letter did indicate that the request would have to come from the plenary session of the council, and where they would meet a delegation and the executives, a delegation of the elected members. Now, all 6 councillors in the south of the county are in unison on this issue. It's not a political football for the elected members. This is a very serious and real concern that people have, and that residents in the area have been raising on a continual basis. I'm elected since 2009. It's been raised since I was elected. Prior to me getting elected, it was raised with me. But I know that there's other councillors elected longer, and it's been raised with them on a continual basis. So there's been very serious accidents have happened on the road. There's been fatalities on the N61 itself at different locations over the years as well. But it's the fact that they're refusing to meet is just not acceptable. At that meeting of the municipal district, I proposed that a letter that the executive would seek in the opinion of the county council's legal advisor in relation to if there was a basis to judicially review that decision, because it's simply not good enough that when we as elected members raise safety issues, road safety issues, that we're just ignored as if we're irrelevant and don't exist. There was previously meetings, and other councillors will speak to that, where there was meetings in Dublin. Nothing on the ground has happened. We've heard about the various different reports and consultant reports, but these things are taking way too long. And what needs to happen is for the higher echelons of TII to come down and to meet with the elected members at the location to review the situation, to see how serious it is. Because it needs to happen, and that's the position, and that's why it's now been brought to the full council. We don't want to be taking up the time of other councillors and dealing with issues that are relevant to South Roscommon, but this is the position we've been forced to take as a result.
Thanks, Councillor Keogh. Next up to speak is Councillor John Naughton.
Thank you, Joe. No, I'd just like to support the other councillors on this motion, and we had a long discussion at the municipal district meeting in relation to it, and we were very disappointed with the response we received from TII in relation to it. And I don't know what the legal position is, but I think it needs intervention from the minister in relation to it, to ensure that when a municipal district set up on a national legislative basis requests a meeting with the national authority, that they facilitate that, particularly in issues that are so grave and urgent in relation to a national primary route with a significant number of junctions off it that are a serious traffic hazard. There's the last count that was done on that section of road between Corriboy and Athlone on the N61, there was 13,000 cars a day in using that section of road. That's the volume of traffic we're talking about. We're looking for turning lanes, filter lanes, upgrading that road, and probably long-term looking at a new road going into Athlone. But when we seek a meeting, that should be facilitated by a national authority when a request comes from a municipal district. And we were left in no position only to bring this motion before the members of the full council and asked them for the support to request this meeting so we can address the urgent issues that are ongoing with the N61. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Naughton. Next up is Councillor Tony Ward.
Yeah, thanks very much, Cathaoirleach, and I would support my colleagues there. Just to state that I've been raising this issue as far back as 2006. And if you look at the situation there on the N61, and especially in the Kiltoom area, no traffic calming, no safety measures whatsoever, despite the fact that you have 2 or 3 businesses, you have a church, you have a school with over 400 pupils there, and you have no footpaths, no pedestrian crossing, absolutely no safety measures in place on the N61 all the way from Ganley's roundabout right into Roscommon town. But if you look at the situation there, I was told I put a motion before Roscommon County Council or before the Athlone MD in relation to having a survey carried out at junctions. And if you look at the mountain roads off the N61 and people trying to go to work, get to work in the morning to come out, there's no filter lane. Corrimore is an example of that. If traffic is just turning to the right, someone wants to turn to the left, they're not able to get out for 15 or 20 minutes. And despite the fact that the National Roads Authority at the time did state that they were going to carry out a survey, they were going to have consultants report, that's over 2 years ago and still nothing has happened. And despite the fact, if you look at TII ignoring the 6 councillors in that area, and you'd imagine for the person on the outside, but if you're on the inside, it's completely different. But the person on the outside would think that the likes of the TII would be delighted to have the support of the 6 councillors and the 6 councillors on the ground singing from the same hymn sheet. So I'm just, over the years, completely disappointed with the National Roads Authority. Now you have the TII in relation to any progress. There has been no progress made in relation to dealing with dangerous junctions or putting in filter lanes or installing footpaths or public lighting. And for the young people of that area, kids can't cycle to the local national school or to or from. So you have a situation, you have no footpaths, no pedestrian crossing, and you have no roundabouts in place. So I would be saying there, I would be hoping, and I proposed before, that a new road should be built from Athlone to Roscommon town. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Ward. Next up to speak is Councillor Donald Kilduff.
Thanks, Cahirdach. I suppose I'll just echo all of the sentiments of my colleagues, really, and they've been very tame, really, to be honest, and words like very disappointed and all that really don't go far enough. I mean, I have to, and I don't want to use inappropriate language at a council meeting, but we are outraged with this. You know, we're furious, we're hopping mad to think that 6 elected representatives that make up a municipal area can collectively seek to have a letter written to engage constructively with a national body on a very serious issue in the municipal, and we're just being ignored. And this comes on the back of several other letters where you know, the members in the Athlone Municipal have been ignored or dismissed by the TII. And I have to say that engaging with the TII in problem solving is like playing tennis with a haystack. You know, you hit the ball and you hear a bit of a thud, but the ball doesn't come back to you, and it's very, very frustrating. I'd just like to read, if you would, an email from a constituent in the Athlone municipal area who believes that, you know, we reside in a representative democracy, and this man believes this, and I just want you to hear this because it's important. As an elected member of Roscommon County Council, will you please do something about speeding on the N61? Most vehicles are travelling at an excessive speed, and in particular the 60-kilometre section at Hudson Bay area. Cyclists have to use the footpath because of this speeding, which is also causing problems. Please do not come back to me about the usual response of Garda, TII, Road Safety Authority, or any other organisation. I am asking, what are you going to do about it? I look forward to your reply with interest. So this constituent clearly thinks that I, as an elected representative, can actually do something about the issues on the N61. And, you know, I haven't responded to this guy because I don't know what to say to him, and I'm embarrassed to say to him the truth, which is that, you know, it would seem we can't actually do anything about the serious issues on the N61 because the national body responsible for it won't actually even engage with us in the first place. Earlier, we had an example of effective local government action. Information. Sorry?
I missed some of that, Donald. Just you
Can you hear me?
Was out there for a second. Yeah, okay. Can hear you
Can
now.
you hear me now again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier we had an example of effective local government in action with our digital transformation, where we have an executive that's serious about solving the issues of the community and it wants to engage with the community. And not only does it want to engage with the community, but it wants to improve the efficiency with how it's able to engage with the community and deliver the services. And this is an example where, you know, this is an example of a defective representative democracy, in my opinion. And I know that's very strong language, right? And I don't say it lightly, but it is an example of a defective representative democracy. And we have to ask the question, are we a representative democracy or not? Because this, as I say, is an example of defective representative democracy where, you know, the people of the Athlone municipal area went to the polls, they voted for 6 representatives to represent their views and to try and get their issues solved. And here we have a national agency turning around and writing a letter which is basically telling us all to get lost and aren't engaging with us. And this has been going on now for, like, I'm a representative now for 2.5 years, and it's going on since I took office. And I'm very, very disappointed and annoyed about it, to say the least. And it needs to end. I'd support this motion here today, but it shouldn't come to this. We shouldn't have to bring this local issue. This is a local issue to the Athlone municipal. We shouldn't have to bring this to the plenary to get engagement from the TII. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Kilduff. Next to speak is Councillor Emer Kelly.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Yeah, look, I think the rest of my colleagues have outlined very strongly how we all collectively feel in the Athlone municipal area. And this is an issue that's been raised time and time again, and that we all feel very strongly about. And it's a massive safety hazard to all the road users and people living in the area and people travelling along the road for various reasons. And I suppose I can't even describe how frustrating I suppose it is for us to get that response that we did get at our municipal meeting from the TII when they refused to meet with us, especially when the issue is such a massive issue and an issue that has been raised by each member in the municipal area, and how they feel so strongly about it. And as Councillor Kilduff outlined, the query he got from a local a local person living in the area there, like, what are we supposed to say to people when we can't do anything about their roads? Like, we were elected or co-opted to represent the local people in the area, and we should be able to do that. So it's unacceptable, really, that the TII can come back with that sort of response, and it's unacceptable that we have to be bringing it back to a full council body to have to arrange a meeting with it. So I hope the other members of the council will be supportive in arranging the meeting with the TII, and hopefully we can get somewhere with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Pascal Fitzmaurice.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. I want to support the councillors on this. We also have an issue similar in West Roscommon at the N60 at Mulligan, where we've had numerous accidents, and I suppose luckily only a few near misses where people were seriously injured. Thankfully, no one was killed in recent years. And
you're gonna sort of
was an issue for us all because it's part of our areas here in the county. And the TII can suggest that, well, we don't have any say or autonomy over issues on national routes, but we should remind them. County Council that fill the potholes and cut the hedges, and if there's an issue on a national route, it's the staff from Roscommon County Council that go to deal with that issue in an emergency way. And we should be able to meet the TII on any issue like this and any of the national routes. And I believe I said at the last meeting that I'd like that we'd write to the TII regarding the N60 at Mulligan and Castlereagh. I'm not sure was there a reply to that, but certainly I think we have valid issues in relation to road safety on our routes, and certainly we're democratically elected by the people, and certainly should meet us. And I think in this instance they're wrong, but they should meet all the councillors from County Roscommon. And I think that's the way forward in this issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fitzmaurice. Councillor Marty Mcdermott.
Yeah, I'd also like to echo the sentiments there. Thank you, Carter. I'd also like to echo the sentiments there of and the concerns of the other councillors in the other municipal district area. Very valid points being brought up there, and very serious points. I'd like to concur with Councillor Fitzmaurice and what he suggested there, which I totally agree with. We have issues on the N60 there. I've been voicing this since the day since I've been elected, and I've only voiced it there earlier this evening that the TII need to engage more with local representatives. At the end of the day, we are elected as the voice of the people, and that's the bottom line. And God's sake, if we can't speak for them, who can? And that's why we're elected, and that's why these things should be taken on board. And I think it's absolutely shocking what I heard there earlier, that a letter was that such a poor response was came back from the TII in relation to the municipal district that you were speaking about there earlier, that area. And it's actually not good enough. And it's very frustrating for me as a public representative of my area to be going back the whole time telling them, look, it's a TII issue and we're not getting the response. At the end of the day, that's no good if anything happens. If there's an accident and there's a fatality, that's very little help to anyone. And we need more coherent. They need to be more responsive to our concerns in relation to these issues. And like you can't stress how serious it is with these junctions and the N60 and along there. It beggars belief that you have to go to such lengths to try and get a response to something that's so serious. And we really have to the TI really have to be more collective in their thoughts towards our response and to engage more with us. It's imperative, absolutely imperative. Thank you.
Mcdermott. Councillor Anthony Waldron, had you your hand up there? Councillor Waldron?
Sorry, yeah, yes, of course. I fully agree with all my colleagues with regards to TII, and they certainly want to start to listen to what the people are saying. We're just reflecting the opinions of the people, and of course our own when it comes to road safety. When I met with them with regards to the flashing lights with indicating your speed limit, that there should be in every town and village in County Roscommon, and they told me that their study tells them very much the opposite, that it does not slow traffic down, and yet everybody that I talk to tells me it does. So they'll have to start to listen, and we'll have to follow through on this and take it up in a very serious and meaningful way. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Waldron. I'm going to let Director Shane Tiernan come in.
Just before you
I'm going to let the Director in first, Councillor Ward, because you have been in, and I'm going to let you back in then after that. There's a few more that wants to come back in after that. Okay?
That's okay.
All right. Okay, Shane.
Thanks, Cahier. Look, it's not for me to bat for the TII with regards to their meetings policy with elected members. That's a matter for the TII. But I will say that I suppose we can't lose sight of the fact that the TII funds and directs schemes to Roscommon local authority as the roads authority on the national primary and secondary roads. There's been significant improvement on roads, and we have to be very, I think, acknowledge the commitment of the TII to Roscommon. And let's not forget about the biggest infrastructural project going through to the west of Ireland with the N5 and 200 million. I've just got notification the other day that in this year's budget from TII to Roscommon County Council, 51 million will be assigned to Roscommon for that project this year. In recent years, we had Cooltag, we had Oran, we have Clashagani, we have 11 million this year committed to overlays and improvement programmes. There's 300,000 going to Barrabeg, which is where we mentioned on the N61 with regards to a turning lane. We have the turning lane on the N4 being addressed, and we have a traffic study taking place on the outskirts of Athlone, which may direct future schemes. So I think, we need to balance the argument a little bit and just realise that the TII have very, very much given Roscommon a very strong commitment and support over the years as the roads authority. Thank you, Cahier.
Thanks, Shane. Councillor Kilduff, you wanted to come back in there briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Cahill. I suppose just following on from what the director has said there, Shane Tiernan, and yeah, it must be acknowledged, you know, all the funding that is coming in through the TII.
Sorry, Councillor Kilduff,
I know they approved there for, yes.
We're just losing you there again.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Is that any better?
Yeah, that seems to be okay now.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose just following on from what Director Tiernan has said there, and it must be acknowledged, you know, all the funding that comes through the TII, and it's very important and it's very welcome, and that can't be denied. And but that doesn't get away from, you know, their obligations to engage with local representatives. I mean, I can understand why public officials would want to tune out of what politicians are saying sometimes. I mean, I think we can all us politicians here can, you know, identify with that, you know, and but it's going too far when a letter from a municipal is ignored and dismissed in this manner. That's just going too far, right? We don't expect TII to be at the beck and call of every local councillor in County Roscommon, but when the entity that is the municipal writes a formal letter seeking a meeting and they refuse to meet, they refuse to engage, full stop, then that's just a step too far. It really is a step too far. And we're not saying here that they're refusing to carry out what we want. They won't even meet us. So that really is a step too far, and that's outrageous. But following on from what you've said, indeed you're correct, and you know, the funding that they're bringing into the county must be welcomed. It is not the TII's money at the end of the day. It is taxpayers' money, and we hear the views of the taxpayers, and we have to try and represent the taxpayers. And that email I read out earlier was just one of those views. And these are real concerns from real people who have real problems on that N61. And I'm one of them because I live along the road and I know the danger of the road, and I don't need any formal report to tell me that it's dangerous and that it needs work. What I'd finally say in relation to it is, I know that there's 1.5 million approved for an upgrade of the pavement there in the Hudson Bay area, and that's most welcome. And TII has recently announced that pavement upgrade there. But there is an issue with speeding through there, and perhaps a small amount of that budget could be used to put in some feedback signs at the beginning and end of the speed zone in that area. These were, you know, requested formally by the municipal district previously, and again ignored, as with most of our correspondence from the municipal district, feedback signs for that area there in Hudson Bay. And I'd just again like to mention it today, perhaps some of that 1.5 million budget for the pavement could be put forward to install feedback signs. Despite what the TII is saying that they're not having a positive effect, we know that they are. We are getting the feedback that they are having a positive impact. I know myself, every time I come into a village and I'm told that I'm going too fast, I immediately adjust my speed, and I know that many other road users do. I know that there are some who don't. There are always headbangers on the road, and there's nothing we can do about them, and no feedback sign is going to influence those. Only the Garda enforcement will influence those.
No bell today, Councillor Kilduff, and I'm going to have to, because you've had 3 minutes before, and there's a few other members from the south wants to come back in. If you can just finish it off briefly.
Well, I'll finish up with that and say, yeah, I welcome the funding, and perhaps some of it could be used to put in feedback signs there in Hudson Bay to address the speeding issue there. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Kilduff. Next up, Councillor Kelly, you wanted to come in there, did you? Your hand was up earlier, no? No, okay. Councillor Ward.
Yeah, thanks very much for allowing me in.
Councillor Ward.
Pardon?
Briefly, if we can.
Well, I'm always brief. I'll be brief on this occasion. I just like to say to Shane that I've always recognised funding coming to County Roscommon whether it was by the National Roads Authority or TII. But I have to say to Shane as well, the Director of Services, as a public representative since 2004, there was a lot of times there was very little funding coming to the county. So any funding that comes now, I appreciate it. But it doesn't deal talking about funding for the council. I have no issue recognising funding coming to Roscommon County Council, coming for roads or coming for sewerage or whatever. But I do have an issue. As I said at the very outset, I'm raising it since 2006, and that I have a duty as a councillor. It's in my parish in relation to the issues that I have raised over the last 15 or 16 years. And it's all down to safety, which wouldn't cost a huge amount of money, because at the end of the day, it's the councillor that'll the hand will be put up in relation to naming a councillor or mention a councillor. It won't be the TII. So I have a duty as well to the people that contact me on a regular basis, and that has always been in relation to safety. And the safety on that N61 is blackened because you have no footpaths, you have no public lighting, you have no footpaths, you have absolutely no pedestrian crossing. Just imagine that you have over 400 pupils attending a national school there and you don't have a pedestrian crossing. And yet every agency in the government is promoting walking, cycling and so forth, and we don't have the footpaths and we don't have the facilities. So look, thanks Chair for allowing me to come back in there, but I'll finish on this point. And the reason I wanted to come back in, over the last 20 odd years, there has been at least 10 to 15 fatalities on that stretch of road. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ward. Next up to speak is Councillor Lawrence Fallon. You're on mute, Lawrence.
Not fully up to fame technology yet, it seems. It'll take another.
Getting there.
Getting there. Very briefly, just to thank the councillors for their support on the motion I proposed on behalf of the 6 councillors in the area. I think the message is very clear. We have a problem in South Roscommon. I note what Shane is saying. We have got very good funding from the TI down through the years. Some of this funding is a benefit to Mayo and Sligo and other places as well. But I think the point we are trying to make is that until the TI come down and see the difficulties that are pertaining to this particular stretch of road, it's very difficult to explain them. And for years now, I have been a bit concerned that the TI's policy has been, how dangerous is it? And the calculation for danger is how many was killed or how many serious accidents did we have. We as council would much prefer to preempt these activities happening, and as Councillor Ward said, a number of people have already been killed on this stretch of road. The reality is it's dangerous, it needs attention, and it needs to be seen on the ground, because it's very difficult if you're operating out of Dublin based on statistics to see for yourself what the problem is. So in the interest of the TI getting a full understanding of the problems of the roads in County Roscommon, I think it is in their interest as much as in ours that they will come down and see the problem. So I thank you for the support this motion have, and hope that the council can invite the TI to come and meet with us. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Fallon. Now, there's a few, and we'll keep it brief because we want to move this on and get this agreed and over the line. So next up was Councillor Keogh.
Thanks, Gary, for letting me back in. And I hear what the Director is saying, the other members, particularly on counties of what Councillor Fitzmaurice and Councillor Mcdermott have said in relation to the N60. And I don't think there's any one of us in the south of the counties suggesting that a meeting with TII can't include other councillors from other areas. But there's one thing for certain: a meeting has to take place with TII, and they need to come to the local authority. Previously, councillors went up to Dublin to meet with on the issue. But very little is happening in relation to it. So, you know, you mentioned there, Director, of the work on the N5, and that's all very welcome, a significant investment. But that, you know, is really to the benefit of Sligo and to Mayo, as a previous speaker said. And I know there was a company in Mayo that the bulk of their breakages on transit to China took place, and that stretch that's been upgraded. That's we welcome investment in the county where it's coming, but that doesn't mean that there has been an adequate investment over the years in the county in that respect. But that doesn't mean that we sit back and just accept the status quo as what is. We've requested a meeting, and it's contemptuous that they're not meeting with us, are not prepared to even entertain a meeting with us. That's what we find more contemptuous than anything, I think.
Thanks very much, Councillor Keogh. Now there's two more councillors with the hand out. If they could keep it brief, and we'll move on with the agenda. Councillor Pascal Fitzmaurice first, and then Councillor Marty Mcdermott.
Thank you, Cahill. Can you hear me there?
Yeah, can hear you.
Yeah. Just a point there in relation to that. It is welcome that we've got huge funding for the N5, and Shane has outlined that, and that is very welcome. But each time we get funding for national routes, there's never any money for the N60 in West Roscommon. And for some reasons, I'm a councillor since 2009. There has never been any investment in the N60 from Castlereagh going to Ballyhonus at any stage during that. And I'd ask Shane that he might ask the TII, why are they not investing any money in N60 in West Roscommon, which is extremely dangerous at Mulligan, extremely dangerous. And he'd ask the TII to come down and look at the road, because it is a very, very dangerous section of road, and yet we can get no funding for it. So I'd ask that he would communicate with the TII why they're ignoring the N60 in West Roscommon. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fitzmaurice. Briefly now, Councillor Marty Mcdermott.
Thank you, Harry. Look, I will be brief, and thanks for letting me in again. No, just look, I do appreciate the TII's funding and all that. That's not getting away, and even my own situation in 60 there, they did accommodate the signage and all that. I do appreciate all that, and I don't want to forget that. But I do have an issue. We say if there's a meeting required and they're not engaging with us, and I only raised it in an MD meeting there. My colleagues will be familiar with it in relation to the feedback signs, as Councillor Kilduff mentioned. I think they are. I think they're a no-brainer, right? They really do work. There's no doubt about that. And I did my own research on it as well, and there is no doubt about it. It is effective, and they do work. And I raised it at the MD meeting for the reason I did, because of the racecourse road there at Corrabile, at Portland's Filling Station, at the Paddocks Housing Estate. It's a very busy area there, and there's been numerous car accidents there in the last few months. And it was very, very lucky that there wasn't a pedestrian killed, because it mounted the footpath and all that, and it was very, very lucky there was no fatality there. And I do think if there was ever a feedback driver sign needed there, the radar system sign that flashes back your speed to you, it really is needed in that particular area, and it would make a serious impact to the situation there, and maybe prevent a serious accident. And I do think the TI need to engage more with us as local representatives, and let us view our points with them, and maybe just come out and look at these things with us. Look, at the end of the day, if we all work together, it's amazing what we can achieve. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Mcdermott. I'm going to let Shane, Director of Services, in now, and then we're going to move it on. Okay, thank you. Shane. You're on mute, Shane.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, again, as I said, it's not my job to defend the meeting policy of TII, and that's a matter for the members to seek clarification from TII in that regard. I would say again, a lot of the funding we get for improvement schemes on the national primaries and secondaries are typically they're titled HD 15s and HD 17s, which means that their inspectors are out and they're looking at areas referred to them, or areas of high incidence or areas of high accidents, that based on statistics that are reported. So they do visit the county continuously. And furthermore, there are occasions when we have situations that are brought up through the area engineering structures to TI. For example, north of Tulsk is one that was recently brought before them, and they have agreed to give us some funding for that. So again, I just want to, I suppose, bring a bit of balance into this, that they do visit the county, they do interact with our area engineers, and if there are specific areas in the county that members have concern with, leaving aside the overall meeting, we still need to go through the correct channels as the Roads Authority by raising it through the area engineering structures, and we then in turn will raise it with TII through the mechanisms of the HD 15s and HD 17s, as we call them. So there are structures in place to deal with this, and in fairness, they always interact positively with us where they can, but like everything, it's subject to resources and funding. That argument will often be made to us as well at times, so just to be cognizant of that. But that's all I want to say, Cathaoirleach, to close out.
Thanks, Shane. So on the proposal by Councillor Fallon requesting a meeting with the TII, seconded by Councillor Ward, is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Agreed.
And look forward to hearing back from them. Moving on then, correspondence has been circulated. Next is Councillors' Conference payments and attendance. I need a proposal for approval of payments for elected members. Someone propose that?
I propose that, Joe.
Proposed by Councillor Napton, seconded by Councillor Ward. And approval of attendances for elected members at upcoming trainings.
We don't actually have any.
We've none.
No, we've none. No, we didn't get any. There were 2 in January, but I think they're already approved, so we didn't get anything since.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Patricia. No one has indicated about AOB, but I would like to say about our. I'm just
Tony Ward, I just want to raise one issue.
Well, and you didn't now.
No, it's not an issue. It's in relation to my colleague, Councillor Nigel Deneen.
That's what I was just commenting now. Anyway, go on, Councillor Ward.
Yeah, I just want to offer my deepest sympathy to my colleague, Councillor Nigel Deneen, and his family on the death of his mother, Breach Deneen. So I just want to offer our deepest sympathies, and especially from the group of independents that I represent. Thank you. Can't hear you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ward. I was just coming to that as well. Our colleague, Councillor Deneen, who lost his mother, Breach, since her last meeting, and it's very sad to lose a parent at any time, but especially at leading up to Christmas. And I wish the family our condolences, and Councillor Deneen as well. I'm sure there's other people want to comment on this. Now, Councillor Kilduff is first indicated.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Indeed, I just want to extend my deepest sympathies to the Deneen family at this time, especially coming up to Christmas. Thanks, Cathaoirleach.
Thanks, Councillor Kilduff. Councillor Kathleen Shanahan.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. I too would like to be associated with my colleagues and offer my sympathy to my colleague, Councillor Nigel Deneen, and to his family and extended family on the passing of Breach Deneen. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Shanahan. Councillor Liam Callahan.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to extend my sympathy to Nigel Deneen and the entire Deneen family. Breach would be a fellow parishioner of ours here in Kilmurray, and it was a great sadness we heard of her sad passing. Indeed, she would be her own family, the Callahan family, would be very well known and respected in the parish from Curtis, and great hard-working family. And I suppose there's any mother to lose her at this stage of coming so close to Christmas, but as a grandmother as well, I'm sure the grandkids will find a huge void in the house now with poor Breach sad passing. I suppose the fond memories and the great inspiration she was to so many people in the area will live with the family, and I hope that they find inspiration from her work and her influence throughout the community, and I extend my deepest sympathy to the family. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Callahan. Councillor John Napton.
I'd also like to be associated with the sympathies to Nigel and the Deneen family on the passing of his mother, and I think it's a difficult time, particularly at this time of the year, for someone to pass away, but just to be associated with it and that we're thinking of them at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Napton. Councillor Pascal Fitzmaurice.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Yeah, I would like to also sympathise with the Deneen and the Callahan family and the death of Breach Deneen, and sympathise with her husband Christy, and to Councillor Nigel Deneen and all the family at this difficult time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fitzmaurice. Councillor Lawrence Fallon.
Well, again, to be associated with the sympathies being expressed, the Deneans have been through a tremendous month of sadness, and I wish them well in the future, but want to sympathise on the death of their mother. The loss of their mother is very severe at any one time, but when you consider a number of the other members have been unwell as well, it made it all the more difficult. So my sympathies to the family at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fallon. Councillor Marty Mcdermott.
Thank you, Gary. Look, no, I'd like to extend my deepest sympathies to Nigel and all the Deneen family and extended family, the Callahan family, and the death of poor Bridget. It was a very sad time of the year, especially the run up to Christmas. It's been a very traumatic few weeks for them, especially with other family members sick also. And look, all I can say, they have my deepest sympathy, and may she rest in peace.
Thanks, Councillor McDermott. Councillor Emer Kelly.
I'd also just like to extend my sympathies to Nigel and the Deneen family on the sad passing of Breach. It's a hard time coming up to Christmas now, so we're thinking of them all over this time of year.
Thanks, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Valerie Byrne.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Like everybody else, I want to sympathise with Nigel and all the Deneen family on losing their mother, and you know, we'll be just thinking of them all, and that's kind of all we can do for them at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Anthony Waldron.
Yeah, thank you. Cathaoirleach, I too would like to indeed pass on my sympathy to Christy and Councillor Nigel Deneen and all the Deneen family and the extended family. And I know all of the Cahill family and hard-working, good people, and my thoughts and prayers are with them all. Thank you.
Councillor Tom Crosby.
Cathaoirleach, I'd also like to be associated and extend my sincere sympathy to Niall and indeed all the Deneen family on the very, very sad passing at this time of year. And we're obviously, our prayers are with them.
Thanks, Councillor Crosby. Councillor John Keogh.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach, and I'd like to echo the sentiments of all the members, and on behalf of the Fianna Fáil party, I'd like to extend our sympathies to our colleague Councillor Deneen on his mother's passing, and to all the Deneen family. Death is never easy, particularly at Christmas, and our thoughts are most certainly with them, as I'm sure they know.
Thanks, Councillor Keogh. Councillor John Cummins.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Well, I too would like to express my sympathy to Councillor Nigel Deneen and his family on the death of Nigel's mother. And she's not alone a mother, she's also a wife as well. And it has been a very difficult time for the Deneen family over the last number of months. And I hope that they can come away from this feeling stronger and better into the future. And I just hope that Nigel himself is making a full recovery from his own illness as well. So he has our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cummins. Chief Executive wants to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you, Cathaoirleach. Again, on behalf of the management team and all of the staff of Roscommon County Council, and on my own behalf, to convey our deep sympathy to Nigel and his family on the death of his mother. And we would all, without exception, like to wish Nigel a speedy recovery from his own illness. And Cathaoirleach, if I may, while I have the floor, can I wish you and all of the members every happiness for Christmas. It's been a rather difficult year for us all in so many respects, a long year, but a successful year. So I hope that all of you get a chance to have a break. I hope that all of you stay safe and your family stay safe, and that we get over the next few weeks in a way that will allow us all to meet and work and live together in a way to be free from the pandemic. So happy Christmas to you all members.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Before we finish, I'd like to wish you, Chief Executive, and the Directors of Service and the staff of Áras an Conde and the staff from the area offices, both outdoor and indoor, a very happy and peaceful Christmas. And to you, the members and your families, a very happy Christmas to you, and stay safe. To members of the media who attend our meetings, very happy Christmas and peaceful and joyful Christmas to you also. I'd like to also thank all the staff of Roscommon County Council on the great work they carried out through the year. We're always onto them, and the amount of work that they do is unbelievable. So a very happy Christmas to all of them as well. And to town teams and community groups, thank you for the work you do, and a very happy Christmas to you as well. And I suppose the main thing is that we stay safe, and hopefully that the new year will bring a new spring in our step, and that things will look a bit brighter. Thank you again.
Thanks,
so we will.
So happy Christmas.
Same you. And so we will keep the meeting closed, and thank you very much, and enjoy the festive season.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Happy
Thank
Christmas.
you. Bye bye.
Happy Christmas, everyone. Bye bye. Thank you.